Hey, what's up, everybody? Good to see you. It is Monday at 5 p.m. on the West Coast, and you know what that means. That means that I am live with all of you. There are already a lot of really great folks in the chat, and so I hope you'll all join. I hope some of you will hop up. Specifically, I have questions for some of you. Robin, you should hop up because I'd love to chat with you about. I know you did a video talking about our exchange on last week's stream. You should hop up because I'd love to ask you some questions about that. And also, Dustin is here for the first time from the channel Truth or Religious Nonsense. Really interesting channel. They're really, really very discussion oriented and debate friendly. And when I say debate friendly, I mean that in the very best way possible. Very respectful of other people's ideas. So, Dustin from Truth or Religious Nonsense, I joined your channel on Saturday and gave a little talk to some people on your channel. So I'd love it if you hopped up and we could do like a little breakdown of some of the things that we talked about. So hop up, Dustin, if you're interested. Truth or Religious Nonsense. Join the conversation. And Professor Hizzle is here. Macintosh Pro is here. Lots of other great folks are here. And we already have people in the queue who are interested in chatting. So I'll get right to it. Just a couple of quick caveats before we get started, though. First of all, if you're new to the channel, please like, please subscribe. Please support the other channels that I'm giving shout outs to. A lot of great folks are in the chat already. And I can't wait to talk to all of you. Number two, I am on the last 2.5 hours or so of my StreamYard allowance for the month. So this may be a bit of an abbreviated or at least abruptly terminated conversation. So if you want to say something and you don't get a chance to today, don't worry. I'll be online live every Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, all the time. And good to see you too, Chris Oki. Okay, let us get our very first person. First of all, let's bring up Chronicle. And while Chronicle is coming up, let me ask a quick question to the chat. Can you guys all verify that you all see the link to join? I just want to make sure that that link showed up for all of you and that you all have a chance to join the conversation. Good to see you, Slave. You should hop up too. You've not been on this channel before. So let's get some other folks up and you can just talk about stuff that you're working on. This is not all meant to be debate. So this is not one of those channels where you have to disagree with the thesis to hop up. You're welcome to hop up and just chat with me about whatever you'd like to chat about. Again, Robin, Slave, Elijah, Chris, good to have you here. Torn, Dustin, hop up. Happy to chat with any of you. All right, well, right now we have Chronicle who's on. Chronicle, we have tried to connect with you and had conversations in the past, but they're always sort of blunted because your mic doesn't get turned on or isn't accessible or people in the chat can't hear you or I can't hear you. So that's not a very common problem. Most people have no problem chatting with me here. So I think there may still be a problem on your end, but Chronicle, let's see if you can respond. Chronicle, okay, there.
Hello, Tavo.
Hi, Chronicle, good to have you here. My recollection is that you are Hindu, right?
Yes.
And BBN, good to see you. Yeah, if I will BBN, I'll get you in because I'm remiss for not getting you in sooner last time. So, but yeah, Chronicle,
Mhm.
what are your questions? What else do you want to chat about today?
Would you talk about religion or Hinduism or Christianity?
Yeah, we can talk about Hinduism or Christianity, whichever you'd like to chat about.
Okay, so many
And
people
I have
think
made, just
that.
really quickly, shout out to Elijah for being here. I have made you a mod, so you're now a moderator. So if there's anything you want to do in the channel, in the chat
Okay,
that I missed, you're welcome to.
so misconception about Hinduism is it's a pagan religion. Okay, so what is the problem? People don't understand Hinduism is firstly, there are four major scriptures, four Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samveda, and Atharvaveda. Then there are some other scriptures which called Brahmanas, like Athra Brahmana, many Brahmanas. What are Brahmanas? There are four Vedas, and language is so difficult. It called Vedic Sanskrit, and language is so difficult you cannot translate it. Like I will tell you, there is a word in Sanskrit like sun for sun, and there are hundred of synonyms. So if someone wrote a sentence in Vedic Sanskrit, you cannot tell what sentence is trying to say because it has hundred synonyms. So language is so difficult to understand it. They
Sure, and
made
just so
a
you know, Chronicle, I have read the Vedas, I've read the Bhagavad
okay.
Gita, I've read them
Yes,
in English translations, so I can't
yes,
say
yes,
that I'm competent to talk about the Sanskrit, but I'm
yes.
happy
Okay.
to get your
So
opinions on stuff. I think Hinduism is a very beautiful
okay.
theology
So
with a lot of
what I'm trying to say is, when a guy quote a Sanskrit text, the problem is they don't know Sanskrit. A problem is not they don't know Sanskrit, because they don't know Sanskrit. They cannot understand it. They cannot read it. And a guy, a fool, come to him and say this on that. And people think that Hinduism is bad. They think about casteism. They think about sati pratha. They think about many things.
Sure. I mean, I guess, but and I hope I haven't pejorated Hinduism excessively. I think there
Hmm.
are a lot of beautiful points in Hinduism, but
Hmm.
there are several periods of Hinduism over time. I think my biggest point has been that Hinduism is a set of good ideas that has been contorted to potentiate
You know
classism
what?
and racism. And you'd probably agree with that characterization. There's a lot of
Hmm.
classism and racism that
Okay.
emerged from Hinduism, not
Okay.
necessarily because of any fault of the founders.
Okay. I will tell you what where it comes from. So there was a guy whose name was James Mill. He was from Scotland or England. In 17th or 18th century, he wrote a book, History of British India. Okay. So he wrote in his book that Hinduism is a bad religion. It has bad things. You know what is the problem? Problem is he never visited India in his whole life, and yet he wrote a book on India and British India, and he defamed Hinduism without even visiting India. On basis of that book, a guy came to India whose name was Karl Marx. He changed Indian education system in 1835. And you know there are many proofs that says there were 99% people educated in India, even in Bengal. There was four type of varnas: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra. You know what is Brahmana? There are
Yeah, I know. I
qual-
know a little bit about the Brahmin class. But
okay.
can do you mind if I ask you to sort of do you have? I guess I'm happy to hear more about Hinduism. It's a fascinating
Hmm.
philosophy and a fascinating religion. I'm happy to make some points about how the caste system originated, how the understanding of karma was contorted to basically an endorsement of classism. But I'm happy to, if you have any questions about Hinduism or about Christianity or about any other theology. And if you want to wax on a little bit longer, I'm okay with that while we're waiting for other people to hop up. But I'm happy to just give you a bit of a window because I agree that Hinduism is underrepresented in the discussion here and probably underrepresented in the discourse that we've had on the channel before. But I guess I just want to ask if you have any questions for me.
Okay, I think you wrote you are ex-atheist. Do you believe in Christianity right now?
I'm still in the category of what I would call theologically uncommitted. But I mean, I'd refer you to my arguments. I do have like sort of calibrated uncertainty and epistemic humility in some of the things that I've advanced as conclusions on this channel. One of those conclusions is that there probably is a God. I'm probably about 55% on that conclusion. The other conclusion is that I think if there is a religion that's true, it's probably Christianity. And I'm probably about 85 or 90% confident in that. And that's based on my CTF argument. Have you checked out the CTF argument?
No, no. What I'm saying is, I'm not against Christianity. I'm against what is written in Bible. So, y- okay, in Hinduism, Vedas sees every person as a human being, but Christianity or Bible sees human beings as Christian, not as human being. So, it
I don't
believes.
know that I agree with that. So what Jesus did, which was a fairly radical contextualization of group empathy, right? We all agree that empathy is parochial to a degree, right? That's one of the problems
Okay.
with empathy. I think one of the things that Jesus did fairly adamantly is that he sort of induced he introduced a larger outgroup sense of non-parochial
Okay.
empathy.
Let me explain you something. Okay.
Sure.
You know what is the problem in religions? Okay, religion don't define its definition. So what is Hinduism is, Hinduism has 10 qualities. It's written in Manusmriti, and it defines, and Veda says let be human, not be Hindu, because Hindu is not even a word.
Yeah, and I
Hindu.
would agree that every person deserves dignity, every person deserves respect. I think my biggest point about Hinduism is that it did start with fairly good values, right? But then the idea of karma was sort of contorted, and when it became contorted, that gave rise to a class system, which you must agree that there is a class and a caste system in India and in
No,
most
no, no, no.
regimes. So
That is
you don't think
means.
that there are people who are untouchables and there are people who are Brahmins?
Okay, okay, I will tell you. Okay, what is the meaning of Dalit?
So what the caste system basically, here's my problem with the caste system. It endorses a system of valuing the individual based on their sort of birth, where they were born and
No,
what caste they were
no,
born
no,
into, rather
no.
than individual merit. And this is not
Okay,
I'm not citing anything that's controversial. This is not anti-Hindu and polemics. This is a very broad understanding of Hinduism, that it did at least give rise to a caste system. I realize the caste system has been repudiated by more enlightened individuals, but at least it was a byproduct of the ideas in
okay,
Hinduism about karma. And by
okay.
the way,
May
while we're
I?
chatting, one quick interjection, Chronicle, while we're chatting, everyone can feel free to hop up. I know that Zara joined. Zara, I know you're tight on time, so if you hop up, we'll try and get to you fairly quickly. So,
Okay, okay.
Zara, if you want to hop
I
up,
will
we'll
ask you some. I will ask
sure,
you some quick question.
sure,
Then
sure.
you. Okay. Uh, have you heard the word Varna?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Have you heard the
The
word?
Varna and the Jati systems, right? That's how people are divided into their hierarchical
Okay.
groups, right?
Okay.
Hereditarily.
Okay. Okay. You know, uh, what Hinduism thinks that Hinduism is based on karma
Well,
or
again, there are several iterations and several phases of Hinduism. Oh, did we lose you, Chronicle?
no. I will tell you something.
Chronicle, I think we are losing you a little bit.
Okay, okay. I will give you some proof. You know what is the problem? Okay. People think that karma is based on birth, but you know where the Dalit word come from?
The
It's a
literal word
Buddhist text.
karma.
Okay, okay. I will tell you. Okay. Karma is a Sanskrit word which
Uh,
means action.
and then Zara, if you
Then
want to hop up, you're welcome to. We'll try and get you in fairly quickly because I am curious to have you share some of your insights after you went live for a long while today, but no pressure, of course. Okay, go ahead, Chronicle. We're back to you.
okay. So what Brahman is all about?
Yeah, we're listening. Go ahead.
Okay.
Chronicle, are you there?
Mhm.
So you said, do you know what Brahman is all about? And we're listening. We're ready for you to explain it.
Okay. So Manusmriti says a guy who did yajna, who have good qualities, who read Vedas for 18 years, 25 years, and there is a limit, there is age criteria. Then he will perform as a whole his life. He have good qualities. He will marry. He will perform many things. Then he can become Brahman. Then he can become Brahmana. Without that, a guy cannot get a body. So it says not Brahmana. It says Brahmana body. मतलब Brahman शरीर. So it's all about karma. Who will do karma? Who will do action? Body. So it says that if guy do all the good things, have the good qualities, read for
No,
25 years.
I guess Chronicle, not to interject too much, but we you would agree though that there is a caste system in many Hindu
No,
societies, right? You would agree with that.
you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you're trying to say that it's
Okay,
possible to
I'll be telling.
transcend
Okay,
your
I will
birth
tell you.
order, right?
Okay, I will tell you. You know what is the meaning of devil in Hinduism?
The meaning of David, sorry.
In Hinduism, there are many types of people. Have you ever read Mahabharata or Ramayana or heard about it?
Yeah. So like the Brahmins are the
Okay,
mouth, the
okay. I will explain you.
Kshatriyas the arms, the Vaishyas the thighs, the Shudras the feet,
Yes,
right? And
I will
those are
explain you.
all symbols of different
Okay. The
Yeah,
guy
sure.
who
Let
wrote
me just tell Zara. Zara, if you want to hop up, I'll get you on. We do have Robin and Dustin in the queue, but I'm gonna speak. I did promise Zara that she could come up because I know she's in a really late time zone, so I'll bring Zara up next after this. Chronicle. We've been chatting for about 10, 15 minutes. Is there anything else you want to wrap
yeah.
up with? I think you've made some interesting points, and I'm happy to learn more about this stuff.
Okay, I will tell you. The guy who wrote Mahabharata was a rishi and he was neutral. Okay. Then there is come another guy, Bhagwan Sri Krishna. He was not rishi, he was Bhagwan. Okay. Then there comes other people, Athreya and Agastya, many people. He was nor rishi, neither he was Bhagwan, he was Brahman. Okay. There's a difference. I will tell you what is the difference. Then there is another guy called Arjuna. He was no rishi. He was neither Brahman. He was not Bhagwan. He was Kshatriya. So what is the difference? I will tell you. A guy who perform yoga. Yoga has 8 steps. You have to do many good things in life. Then you will reach the yoga position. Then you become rishi. What rishi do? Rishi sits
I guess
and sees.
sorry, Chronicle, given that we only have a couple of minutes left, I'm happy to I'm happy to have the Hindu belief system recapitulated. It may not be something that we have that much more time to get into today. Do you want to? Can you offer any closing thoughts, or are there any questions for me that you have, and then we'll go to the next person.
Okay. I have a question for you. You believe in Christianity? Okay.
Again, I'm not theologically committed, but I believe in everything with a degree of calibrated uncertainty. But I
Okay.
think that Jesus
Can
had good
you
teachings.
can you search Matthew 10:34, 35,
Sure. Look up Matthew 10:34. Yeah, sure.
35?
Okay.
What it
Matthew
says?
10:24. Do not suppose that I've come to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. And then 10:35 is uh is that what you're referring to? A man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household.
Why? Jesus said it? Why?
Well, when people say Jesus was bringing a sword, again, we're sort of at the end of our time. But most people don't interpret this as violent language. In other words, Jesus wasn't saying literally, "I came here to use a sword against people."
No,
What Jesus
he is saying it. He is saying it.
Okay, but here's my question to you. Do you believe that every quotation from Jesus is recorded verbatim in the New Testament? Because then I would say that poses a very different problem for your theological worldview, probably.
The problem is. with Bible is they are literally saying that
We're
thing
right
in
at
Bible.
20 minutes, Chronicle. So what I would suggest is why don't you come back next week and we'll pick up where we left off, and I'm happy to pick up on Matthew
Okay, I have
Matthew.
a request to you.
Sure.
Okay,
And then we'll bring up
will
Robin
you
after that.
come to our channels?
Oh, sure. I'd be happy to. I'd love that. Yeah.
Okay,
My
okay.
email,
How?
my email is drtavosanabri@gmail.com. Just DrTavosanabri. So just Dr and then my full name at Gmail. So feel free to shoot me an invite, and
Okay,
you've popped over to a few of my channels, so there's the least I could do. If you want me to join your channel or any other channel or pop up for discussion, I'd be happy to do that.
okay. What is the Gmail?
It's on my channel actually.
That is
Oh,
right, or
and slave of Adonai Elijah actually wants to put an answer for you in the chat. But my answer to that is Jesus isn't saying that he's bringing literally a sword. In other words, he's not saying I am here to do military conquest. What he's saying is instead, this is going to be a time of conflict. This is not. There's going to be a lack of popularity. This is going to be a time of contentiousness, and be prepared for that. It's not going to be all sunshine and roses. All right. Well, Chronicle, let's have you back up next week. You're welcome to join. We'll pick up where we left off. Let me get Robin up here, and then we'll keep going, if that's okay with you, Chronicle. And shoot me an email.
okay,
I'm happy to. And my email address is just drtavosanabri@gmail.com.
okay.
All
Bye.
right. Okay. Good to see you, Chronicle. Thanks for hopping up.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Robin. Good to see you.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Just to give people some updates, you were here last week and we talked very briefly,
Mm-hmm.
but then you were on the I don't remember the name of the channel, but it's like AZ Sync. It's a really wonderful channel.
Async network, yeah.
Async Network. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. And then at that point, you did a kind of a reaction video with some of the people there. And then I actually just saw you on the screen, so I hopped up to join the panel. But then you
Yes,
guys
we
moved
yeah.
on so quickly that
Yeah, we didn't get to go. We didn't. It
Yeah.
took forever before we got to get back to that thing. Well, because Objective Ethics had done like that response video, so like I had asked them to watch that call.
Oh, I didn't know that somebody else did a response video.
You hadn't seen the Objective Ethics
Oh,
video?
I saw Objective Ethics. Yeah, I saw their. I saw
But
their.
like, because he featured our call, like mine and your call in there, so that's what I was.
Yeah, and I was having I had a really good conversation with Objective Ethics a couple of times. I have to be honest with you, like when he hopped up briefly, and he was kind of like, I'm at work, so I just got to say a couple of things, then I got a jet, and so I felt like it wasn't a fully fleshed out conversation.
Yes.
And I was sort of like, a lot of his video was sort of like, Tavo said that Gavin from On Day 3 was gonna do a debate with him. I think there was a full 3 minutes about how On Day 3 was chickening out of the debate, and I have to say that was not really a fair characterization from what I wrote in the email. I guess I just wanted to make that plain.
Oh, I don't even remember that part.
Yeah, it's just something Objective Ethics said. It was about 3 minutes of that, but anyways, what else did you guys conclude in the conversation you guys had after I left?
Well, we barely ever did get back to the video. But were you there? Was that when Felix came in? Or wasn't? It wasn't when Felix came in, was it?
No, there was a guy named Harrison who seemed like a very bright young man. He was.
Oh yes, Harrison that come in, and he was like he had the Phil bro kind of like stuff, right, or something.
Kind of, but I thought he wasn't that bad.
He wasn't. He was
Yeah,
pretty nice.
and then
but,
Arpy called him a slow boy.
yeah,
I really objected to that terminology.
Well, Gretchen got on to him about it too. She was like, "Stop being a
a
D."
Because he was
That's what she
18.
said.
He was 18 years old, so I've had young people.
Yeah,
on
that's
this
right.
channel.
I remember now. Yeah, he was young. He was young. Yeah.
I try to be extra kind when people are when people hop up and they're like really young. I try to be kind and encouraging, and I should really be more kind and encouraging across the board. That shouldn't be something that I'm But I just felt like he was he was 18. He had a pretty articulate point to make for somebody that young. He was definitely smarter than I was when I was 18. So
Well, I don't know about all that. Like, I think that you can use a lot of that Phil Bro language and not, but like he was better than we thought he was going to be. I think RP thought he was going to be a real Phil Bro guy, and he didn't turn out to be quite that bad. But a lot of them are really like condescending and stuff, and so I think RP was just assuming that that's probably where he was going to be at. But RP eventually got to where he he was having a good conversation with him, but.
Oh,
Yeah, I hated that you had to leave, and even RP said, "I hate to watch this now that Tavo's done gone." I was like, "Well, we couldn't stay forever and wait for y'all to." What's a field bro? A field bro is like somebody who tries to use philosophy, but they kind of, I think they use it incorrectly, sort of.
And kind of in a way that's, like you said, kind of condescending and pejorative.
Yeah,
like,
and they talk really fast and.
Yeah, like I've had conversations with people who like hop up and they're like, okay, premise number one, the constitutionalism of the metaphorical insight of the conjunctive impairment by Immanuel Kant in this book, chapter 8.
Yeah, and they like to use a lot of modal logic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Possible worlds, all these possible worlds, and
yeah. I was washing dishes when I was 18. I was not.
Yeah, but like, I mean, just because, like, I don't think that's not a sign of intelligence, though. Just because you can rattle off a bunch of big long words.
Yeah. Well, he seemed like an all right kid anyway. But yeah, I'm glad it went better.
And he was more respectful than what RP was thinking he was going to be. But what I did not bring you back the original sin question this week. I wanted to talk to you about objective morality and like a problem that I see with people, Christians, and I have a specific Christian that I'm addressing about this about, but I won't people want to call morality objective, that that comes from God. And then when you bring up the problematic things in the Bible that God orders, a lot of this one person doesn't want to admit that he's using divine command theory. Like he wants to just special plead for God, like not happen. So I was wondering what's your position on, like, what is the definition to you of objective morality versus subjective morality and divine command theory? Would you care to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, when I had the debate with objective ethics, he was actually on the side of arguing that morality is objective. I was actually arguing against that. So I'm generally kind of an ethical emotivist. Now, Geach and some other people disproved ethical emotivism, but it was basically this kind of workaround thing. So it's not actually true. I'm not an ethical emotivist, but I am kind of generally pretty aligned with that perspective. I think there's another moral realism, quasi-moral realism or something is probably a better name for what I believe. But again, I generally think that if you're acting as a human perceiving the universe without a God, in other words, from a neutral scholarly perspective, with no concept of theology, I think I would be an ethical emotivist, essentially. So
yeah, but like, okay, so like the term objective morality. Do you think that objective morality is stance independent? Would you say it's stance independent?
Yeah, okay, good. So people usually use stance dependent or stance independent as referring to subjective and objective morality. Here's what I believe. The only way to know what is the morally right decision in any situation is if it is stance universal. So that really transcends the discussion of stance dependent or stance independent. In other words, if there's a system, okay, full of conscious entities, and I'm looking in on that system, I can't really know what decision is best for that system without knowing, first of all, every detail about the system. And actually, objective ethics agreed when I made this point to him. But I have to know all of the mind states and emotional states of all of the conscious entities in the system, right? And then I have to know the details of the system in terms of like synergetic effects inside the system itself. So let me give you another way of kind of explaining that. This is the point I made to objective ethics. Like ants, we wouldn't say that ants are moral, right? We would look at ants and say that some of them are they're cooperating, they're doing their thing. If I fled an ant colony, if an ant had a sense of indignation towards me, we might say that ant might consider that act evil, right? But that ant doesn't have the perspective that I have. In other words, I might be flooding the ant colony because that's an invasive species of ants, right? Alternatively, I might be flooding the ant colony because I'm trying to put out a fire that's nearby. So that ant colony doesn't necessarily have the same moral epistemic privilege in the hierarchy of epistemic insight that I have. Just to give you one other example, every time you work out, there are certain muscle cells that undergo apoptosis, which is programmed cell death, right? If that muscle cell was conscious, and you worked out and it died, it would consider that an act of cruelty, right? But that muscle cell is actually part of a larger system. So that was one of the points that I made to objective ethics. And these points all endorse that if there is an omniscient entity that is observing a system, then that omniscient entity definitionally has a higher degree of moral epistemic privilege. And just to make that point in one other line of analysis, we can look around in the world around us, and generally, higher moral thoughtfulness corresponds to higher degrees of intelligence, right? So, in other words, like we are more moral than
Well, maybe sorta. I mean, yeah, I think probably.
Yeah, I mean, in general.
Like it's in general, yeah.
In general, yeah.
But like, is God? What I want to know is, in your view, because this person and it's not objective ethics I'm talking about. This is a Christian that I'm talking with. For some reason, he thinks that there's objective morality. Like, let's say, I'm not going to use the example because we've been using because it's kind of triggering for people. But let's just say, I want to say like stealing, maybe, or lying. Let's say lying because it's okay. So lying is wrong. Lying is, like it's actually a commandment, which the thing that I'll just go ahead and change it back to the subject that we were talking about was grape. Like, and I'm not.
Okay, why don't we say SA-ing, because I'm part of a little discussion thread, and
yeah, okay, that's fine. I wasn't going to say the R. Yeah,
I know. But
okay,
the discussion thread said that YouTube is now cracking down on the G word.
Oh, too? Okay.
Seems bizarre. But what do you want to say? Like SAE?
SA be fine with me because I didn't want to say the R. We were discussing SA. Okay, and in the specific case, we were referring to the punishment that was ordered by God against David's wives. And of course, SA is not actually anything that is in the specifically mentioned and prohibited in the Bible. I mean, like, I guess you could say, you would, if you go by the golden rule, that wouldn't apply to that, but it's not specifically mentioned or prohibited or anything. And actually, in this case, it was the passage. Actually, when I read it, comes across as that God used this as a punishment to David. For what he was, for what David had done. And so this Christian, though, is trying to claim that there's objective morality, and obviously this Christian does not support this SA, but for some reason, he is trying to claim that God actually can order this just because he's God. And to me, that makes that divine command theory and not objective morality. What would be your feelings on that?
I guess I have two feelings. Feeling number one is we tend to say the Bible says this, right? The Bible says you should do these things. The Bible says this. The Bible says that. I tend to think of it as just, I think the Bible as a group of works is worthy of reading. But I generally tend to think it's not something that is a single monolithic work, right? Every work.
Yeah. Well, this Christian actually would this, like, I know I'm probably should be asking you, but like like, would you see that though as if we exempt God from following the rules of objective morality, as what then is that not divine command theory? Like, I mean, like, to me, if something is objective, it would be objective for God to follow too. Like, it would be a rule, it would be a moral position that God must hold to be moral, the same as anybody else. Like, I don't know how we can call it objective if God doesn't have to do it. Does that make sense? And I mean, like, I know you're not
Sure,
the
and
person
I
that I'm
understand.
having this conversation with, but I want to know what everybody else felt if I was like seeing this completely wrong.
No, I understand the point you're making. But again, I have several thoughts on this. First of all, we should. It's probably a good idea to always start these conversations by acknowledging that SA is morally repugnant, right? And so we should say
Of course.
that should be the background, and that should be the starting point of every discussion on this.
And I think this Christian agrees with that position.
Yeah, and that's
But
really
because of their faith in this, I think that, like I told him, I said, I believe that your religion causes good people to try to explain away stuff like this, that to where your God is not held morally culpable for the immoral actions that he had ordered or committed in the Bible. That to me, that's the way it comes out. And I think that they try to, and it is poorly done, as I might say, to try to exempt God from the objective morality that they claim exists. I don't believe in objective morality, so I don't have to defend that kind of. But I think that I think that it's hard to say, okay, this is objective morality. SA is wrong, but if God orders it, it's okay because He's God.
Yeah, I mean, again, I have several thoughts on that. So the first thought is, I generally prefer to think of things as morally harmful, and how do you talk about that, right? I think it's okay to say that these things were done in the Old Testament period, especially that where there was moral harm that ensued, right? And I'm okay sort of acknowledging that point. Okay, I don't like to get into specifics about it, and the reason is because then it really just becomes a rhetorically impossible thing to win, right? Like, I was talking to an atheist on here, and he was like, "How can you justify a child who suffers, who dies of cancer? Like, how do you justify?" And I'm like, I obviously like that at that point, it's too intense a conversation, and we had a lovely conversation, but it became more about what are you going through, what are the situations in your life, and how can we talk about them. So now, getting back to the Bible question, though, again, I think we kind of tend to treat the Bible as monolithic, right? And I don't think that's the best way to understand it, right? There's moral maximum language, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's imprecatory poetry, right, where like there's sort of curses and blessings that are shouted out, and those aren't always meant to be like, this is something that is prescriptive, this is something that needs to happen. There's theological narratives, right? There's historical narratives. Another example of an act that people often talk about is, how Elisha the prophet was being harangued by some kids, and he cursed them, and then this bear killed them, right? And what people often say is God commanded the bear to kill them. Now, if you get into the Old Testament, God actually doesn't send the bear to kill them, right? It's kind of an aside, but the point is this: I think they're writing down things that happened, right? So I think they're writing down these things happened. Now, to me,
so you think that they're just assuming that God sent the bears? Is that what you're trying to say? That maybe the
regarding
writer
that,
is
yeah.
assuming?
I haven't really finished my point, but regarding that, yes, specifically, I would agree that I don't think God sent the bears in that case. The bears just kind of came out and hurt these kids, apparently. And if you read the story literally, right?
I mean, when I read the story, I think God sent the bears. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't actually say that in the original Hebrew.
No, but it infers it. Yeah, it's sort of an inference from it.
Yeah. But I don't know that that's moral maximum language. But, you know, the other side of this is that I tend to try to see everything using Jesus as a hermeneutical key, right? So the Old Testament was written in a very brutal time, right? And the way I sort of look at anything in the Old Testament is I say, you know, what Jesus says, all the laws of Moses hang off, these two commandments. Number one, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. Love your neighbor as you love yourself, right? And Jesus over and over and over again explains that, you know, the letter of the law is not as important as justice, as mercy, as kindness. And he says this iteratively, and he says this many, many times. So I guess my point is this: using Jesus as a hermeneutical key, can we discern that there is a moral maximum or even a moral ought in that story? And I think that the answer is no. One last thing that I'll say is that I think when you are judging situations like that, the context matters. It was a brutal time. You know, there are stories of brutality in the Old Testament. I don't think that's morally prescriptive. I think it would be horrific if Christians said, like, yeah, doing these things because God did them in the Old Testament is the way we should do things. And also, I think at some point, some of the narratives are more historically based without specific endorsement of God being delineated. In other words, there's
Okay.
sort of an endorsement of God that's inferred. And as we've already talked about last week, and I won't go over all of these points, but I also think that the Old Testament is meant to be very much allegory. But I really think you have to parse out. Now, the last thing I'll say is that we don't know all that much about the text that Jesus was working off of when he cites Mosaic law, right? We know that there were at least some parts of the Torah that were not canonical during the time of Jesus, notably Ecclesiastes and the Song of Songs, which were really only canonized into Hebrew scripture by the Council of Jamnia in the year 90 CE. So this was after the time of Jesus. So when he says, I have fulfilled all the laws of Moses, you know, I am the fulfillment of those laws. I don't know that he's saying that, look, every word of the Torah is an ought, is a moral maximum, and I'm commanding you to do that. To me, he's saying, I fulfilled the obligation of that old covenant, and that allows us to reach a plateau where we can now provide a new covenant. I don't know if any of that stuff helps you. I think it's okay to say that this is a difficult thing to read, and I don't expect my answer on this to be purely satisfying for each and every person. I mean, that's just I'm kind of giving you an overview.
Well, I know, and you're not the person that was making this argument, and so I was wondering about, but like I read, like Adrian said something in chat about like that these creative beings, like God is not held to the like it's like God is not held to the same standard as his creative beings. And I don't understand why in the world we would special plead. Like that is one of the things that when atheists come up and make these point these situations out, the reason why we're doing it is because we're trying to highlight that either there is, if your God exists, he does not follow objective morality. So like objective morality is non-existent, because I think if it was objective, God would have to follow it. If God is exempt from it, if you can special plead your God out of objective morality, then it is divine command theory, not objective. That's just my opinion. That's my point. And I think that, and I shouldn't, I just wanted to see what your feelings were on it, but it's not, it's going to continue to be an objection, and, and people don't like it when we question the morality of God. But, if in my position, I have my own moral position, I can state my moral position is to increase the well-being of myself and those people around me, and and to go out further from that as far as I can. Of course, I can't do things about some people, but I don't have to cause harm. I'm a positive utilitarianism is like something I hold to, but and so that's my system, and I can I do judge other people, and even the God of the Bible in by my system, and I find him very wanting when it comes to because I don't see that his moral system has any makes any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It's just like, and I think that people say the Old Testament, but first of all, if you believe in the Trinity, that was Jesus in the Old Testament. It wasn't like a different figure. It was Jesus. The Trinity. Jesus was all. If you believe in the Trinity, he's there. He was there the entire time. So it was actually Jesus who ordered the essay of David's wives.
Let me get Dustin up here really quick,
Okay,
because
all
I
right.
think Dustin is saying that he's got to go. It sounds like you
Yeah,
got to go.
I'm done. That's good.
Robin, I'd love to like get a final word, and if you're okay, I just wanted to give Dustin a chance to say hello to everybody, because
Okay.
he put in the chat that he's got to run. So, Dustin, you're live with us too, but we'll
Oh,
get back
sweet.
to Robin's question in just a moment. Go ahead, Dustin.
Oh, hello. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, good to see you. It sounds like you're not sticking around for too terribly long, but
Yeah, I do got to go pick up my daughter here from VBS. I don't know where y'all are from, but it's like 103 degrees out
oh gosh.
where I'm at. So I got to go brave that weather to pick up my kiddo here shortly, but I appreciate you having me.
Okay, well, thanks for being on. I'd appreciate if somebody would put Dustin's channel in the chat, and just so I can put it up on the channel so people will subscribe. I gave Dustin's channel a really good talk on the CTF argument on Saturday. So thanks again, Dustin, for hosting me. But if somebody who's one of my mods wants to put Dustin's channel, which is at Truth or Religious Nonsense, right? YouTube.com/@Truth or Religious Nonsense, and I'll put that on the screen right now. Okay, well, good to see you, Dustin.
Appreciate that, Tavo. Yeah, we loved having you, and hopefully we'll have you on again sometime. And I love what you're doing. It's very, very respectful. Everyone's been very kind here today, so that's great.
Well, that's kind of you to say, Dustin, and it's really great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks again. Hopefully I can join sometime and we can talk a bit more. It was good.
I'd love that.
Good checking this out. So have a good rest of your chat.
You too, Dustin. Good to see you.
Okay, see you guys.
Yeah. All right, Robin. So, by the way, after Robin, we don't have anybody up. So I know Chris jumped up briefly. If anyone else wants to jump up, I'm happy to like host some more people in the chat. I've got about an hour and a half left on my StreamYard, so feel free to like hop up but Robin, I just want to say that like I understand what you're saying. I really resonate with it. Moreover, I can definitely see how like this would be a very difficult conversation for me to have with anyone who has been the victim of a kind of the horrific crime that we started off talking about, right? So thanks. This is it's actually Dustin. I think I said Justin incorrectly, but it's Dustin, but it's true. That's the channel. So thank you for highlighting it, Macintosh Probe. But anyways, Robin, my point is this: is this really a disproof of Christianity? I would argue that it's not, for two different reasons. Number one, the belief that God did these things in the Old Testament is not even intrinsic to Christianity, right? There are many Christians who have very nuanced perspectives on, first, whether or not God did these things, second of all, whether or not God was justified in doing these things. And there's a wide breadth of opinions and perspectives on some of the traditional objectionable passages in the Old Testament. So that's the first thing that I would say. I think that many Christians can have a completely consistent whole worldview and can say, I understand that God did things that are difficult to reconcile in the Old Testament. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing that I would say is, again, we tend to, as humans, consider ourselves to be at the apex of moral thoughtfulness. Now, the reason why we make that decision is because we look around us and we see beings that are less intelligent than we are, and we see our moral capacity to be heightened relative to the moral capacities of those other beings. We look at cats and we see the cats are never immoral, right? They're just doing what cats do.
Yeah, well, I have a problem with that. I don't think the intelligence part is the moral. I don't think that I know plenty of intelligent, not immoral people. Like,
I was not arguing.
I would say people
very intelligent,
more advanced, like in like consciousness or their empathy that has been evolved, more empathetic, empathy and.
No, that's absolutely true, and it's not like it scales precisely, right? Although like pro-social behaviors do tend to scale up with higher levels of intelligence. But I'm not saying that if you've got an IQ of 130 that you're more moral than somebody with an IQ of
Okay.
120, right? But what I
Yeah.
am saying is if we look at a cat, right, that cat doesn't have theory of mind. It's very hard for us to understand if that cat understands if the entities that it's killing when it kills a little mouse or something, if
Yeah,
those
the cat. I don't hold the cat morally as a moral agent because, first of all, the universe. Obviously, if you think the universe was designed, you think that God designed it to where the cat is required to kill to live. So,
well, how about this? Let's say there's
we can't
an
hold it.
alien. Let's say there's an alien that lands on Earth, right? And it has an IQ of 1,000, right? By our measurement, which is going to be very crude. But let's say, just say it's like hundreds of times more intelligent than we are. Don't you think that that entity would be able to judge our morality or lack thereof from a standpoint of epistemic privilege to where we sit on that hierarchy?
I mean, I don't know. Well,
then that's
like
okay too.
If we read them, but I think that if an alien came down here and we said our highest moral system, the highest morality that you can have is to follow this particular book. This book describes the peak of morality. I think that the alien would have a really hard time deciding what exactly was allowed and what wasn't under our morality, because I think, and I think if we said this God represents the highest standard of morality, it would be hard for that alien to say, so what exactly is this God against and not against?
No, I understand. But I mean, my point of the alien is not to say that this is something that is theoretical or practically achievable, or that this is something that's going to happen. The whole point of it is entirely conceivable, right, that there exists a higher plane of understanding that contextualizes our moral behavior, moral transgressions much differently than what we understand them to be. Does that make sense? Let me put this another way.
Yes, but okay. So are you trying to say that God has a higher level of understanding?
Yeah, theoretically, if there is an omniscient being, it's able to make moral decisions that we can't make. And there are several. There are several reasons for that. I'm happy to just go over those reasons really quickly.
Well, I just don't. I don't think that you're going to give me a reason that I think finds fit. Like, I think
how about this?
That makes divine command theory. Then is what that is. I mean, like, that's fine. People can claim divine.
I don't think so. I think it's more like epistemic humility.
I don't think that God has humility at all.
No. I'm saying we are putting ourselves in a perspective of epistemic humility.
Well, I mean, I think that I think we are like cheating. We are like degrading humans at all to expect them to look at the Old Testament and even some of the parts of the New Testament and say, this is, my God has objective morality, and you as an atheist, you don't know what morality is. And when I point out the problematic pieces of the Bible, people say either I don't think God prescribed, like, you know.
But there's several issues. So issue number one is that doesn't address any of the thought experiments that I've mentioned so far, right? We at least have we at least have a hierarchy that we're on, and we can't reason that we're epistemically at the top point of privilege on the hierarchy. Number two is, if we don't have a standard for morality, I don't know that we can indict God. Like, one of the things that I had in the conversation with Objective Ethics is he was very adamant that God has done morally repugnant things. But when I said, can you give me a standard of morality? He couldn't do that. He couldn't provide an objective standard. So my point to him was, I don't fault you for not being able to provide me a standard. We've been trying for thousands of years to try to put together lines of argumentation that provide moral reasoning, and it's really, really very hard to do. But until we can do that, I don't know that we have an alternative ruler where we can say, this is our yardstick, and this is what's good, and this is what's bad on that yardstick. Yeah. I do know, though, that there are perspectives that we simply lack, right? If I'm an omniscient perspective looking in at a universe with a bunch of conscious entities, I can make decisions about the well-being of those entities that they themselves would not be able to make, that they themselves would not be aware of. Just like being a muscle in our body, when you exercise and the muscle undergoes apoptosis, there's you're gaining muscle, you're doing what's good for your body. A cancer cell probably looks at if it gained consciousness, it would look at itself and see that it's doing really well for itself. It would see that it's being very successful from every metabolic standard that it would be able to measure, right? But it doesn't see things from the perspective of the organism. We as humans don't see things from the perspective of the harmony of the universe, from the perspective of the conscious experience of other individuals. So it's very hard for us to judge things morally. Moreover, we have very, very specific scotomas. We talked about moral self-licensing last week. I'll just add the point that moral self-evaluation is also very, very deeply flawed. So when we rate ourselves morally, we do a terrible job of rating ourselves on a moral scale. We always overestimate how moral we actually are. I Finished in a Tie has a lot of other interesting points that he's putting in the chat. So I'd refer people. He's going to be a guest on the channel very soon.
I mean, I think that's wrong. Like, I disagree with that. I think that that was one of the things that me and Objective Ethics were talking about in that video. Like you said, people were evil. I don't think people are evil at all. And like, I'm gonna get down though, because I'm triggering some people in your chat really bad.
No, Robin, no. You should never feel like
I know, but I probably shouldn't even be reading it. But it's like really, it's really aggravating.
No, Robin. Okay, let me before you hop off, let me tell you a couple.
Especially slave. Slave is rather rude as he can be, actually, but. Whoever they are, let
me make some overarching points. Number one, Robin, you are, as far as people I have met, one of the kindest and probably one of the most. And if there was like a miscongeniality of atheism, you would definitely be voted that by almost everybody. You are so beloved by every atheist that I've talked to, and by many, many Christians that I've talked to. You're very beloved, and you've got a wonderful channel, Robin. And I'm always happy to talk to you anytime.
Yes, I want to have you on. Yes, I do.
I'd love that. And we've always had nice conversations, and we'll continue to do that. And I think people are passionate, and I haven't been keeping a super close eye on the chat, but
that's all right.
I think you and Elijah would get along really well, actually.
Well, I don't know, but I think that just questioning the what we see in the Bible. When we question the morality of the God of the Bible, I think that we are justified in doing so because of people saying that this is objective morality. And I don't feel like they brought up I saw people mention Christian ethics. I don't know what ethic that I borrow from that is specific to Christianity and Christianity only. And that was not a part of all societies or most societies, and definitely wasn't a part of society even before a lot of religions came along. I think that we are a social species, and that cooperation and some rules are something that social species are required to have. Bonobos, chimpanzees, I mean, they have their own rules. They're not specifically aligned with what we consider moral in our
absolutely
but they do have different ones, and the bonobos and the chimps are both pan species, but they have very different systems.
But ants cooperate, so they're not. We wouldn't say that ants are more moral because they cooperate, right?
Yeah, well, I'm talking I'm talking about mammals. I won't even go into non-mammal animals, but our closest kin, which are the chimps and the bonobos. They are very the chimps are very violent and stuff, but the bonobos are not. The bonobos, and they have strict moral rules about SA even in the bonobo situation. The chimps actually don't, but let
me ask you this, Robin. Do you it sounds like you don't believe in moral objectivism, right?
No, I don't believe morals are objective at all. I don't believe there's anything out there to give us that. I think if anything.
So in that case, I guess my question is, how do you judge God as doing something evil?
I judge God with my moral system. This is the way I look at it. Everybody on this planet, whether you're a Christian, you're a Hindu, you're a Muslim, whether you're a witch, whatever. Everybody, its moral system is based on their own sentiments. Okay, so a Christian uses their own sentiments to come to the decision to value the morals of Jesus or the Bible, but they make that choice. Like that is their sentiments. My sentiments lead me to accept the morality of Yahweh or Jesus. My sentiments. Okay, so no, so like everybody does that. I mean, it's everybody. If you are a Christian, you are placing your value, what you value, on this system. I place my value on the system of like humanism, but pretty much more well-being.
Wait a second, because what if then you lived in a time where the humans around you were committing things that you and I would right now consider to be atrocities, but by their standards,
I mean, by my I know. Well, I mean, I can't
that's the problem. If you can't say that those people are doing things that are bad, how do you say that God did?
I can judge them by my system.
But what is your system?
That's what I'm saying. My system is like I'm a well-beingist. I believe in doing what increases the well-being of myself and those people around me, and that circle can extend as far as I'm able to have any control over. I
know, but one of the criticisms of utilitarianism is it potentiates the tyranny of the majority, right? And I could imagine
utilitarianism. Like, I'm not really like a strict utilitarianism. I mean, like, but I think that utilitarianism as a general thing has.
Let me give you a thought experiment. Okay, if there is a society, okay, and one person is suffering in that society, okay, and and from the perspective of that one person, that suffering is rather grave, right? But from the perspective of an omniscient entity who knows the mind state of each and every person, the emotional landscape of each and every person, the status of every conscious actor, and also very nuanced details of the harmony of the system, that's going to be a very different assessment of what the moral impacts are of that individual suffering, isn't it? I mean, just by definition,
but I mean,
understand what people are feeling.
Well, I mean, like, first of all, I don't even agree that being exists. I think that I know a lot of Christians think that it's just obvious that God exists, but it's not. You know what I mean? And in fact, I think the evidence. I mean, like, I watched your argument about the seed, whatever it is, and like, I may agree with you on the fact that if one of the religions is true, that Christianity probably has more evidence than the others.
That's really encouraging that you.
But that's an if any of them are true, because they don't have to any of them be true. Yeah, like they can all be false. Like there could be no God.
Let's bring some people up as well. We got Dr. Curt, and then we got Faith from Facts. But Robin, let's do this. Let's talk again sometime soon. And here's what I would suggest: if we are to say this is good or this is bad, then we ought to have a yardstick first. Right?
I do have a yardstick. I have a system. I do. And I do. Mine is based on my sentiments, just like yours is based on your sentiments, just like everybody else's is based on their sentiments.
But then you can't apply your yardstick to someone else, right? Because everyone makes their own yardstick. Right?
Well, I mean, I can. I may not be able to force them to live by my rules, but I can judge people by my system.
Here's the real problem, though. If using Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative, this is a whole other thing.
But I cannot say that there is. I cannot say that there is a God somewhere who has an objective system that doesn't have to follow it. Like, and that he can do whatever he wants to do.
And I'm okay with that, Robin, because you're saying you can't say that, right? And there you're actually acknowledging your epistemic humility. In other words, you're looking at God and you're saying this being may be outside of the scope of my judgment. And I actually agree with that. That's a statement that I agree with.
I don't think he is. I think if this being, I don't think he is, though. I don't think he's outside of my judgment. I think that if people want to say that this being is the highest moral standard that can exist, then I think that he ought to reflect that.
There's a lot of really great points that are being made in the chat, and I'm sorry that I can't highlight them all.
I know, but they just like it's like it's special pleading for God like every time, and that's just. And I don't have what I want to ask them what specific Christian ethics do I adhere to that belongs specifically to Christianity. I've asked that question.
Robin, can we agree on something? Because I think we are converging on one point of consensus, and just we'll end there, and we'll bring Dr. Curt up next.
Okay.
But can we agree on at least one point? And that point is that if there is an omniscient perspective on the universe, that perspective sits at a higher plateau of epistemic privilege relative to our own perspective.
I don't know. I think that he ought to have to follow the same rules we do. Well, if you want to bring Curt up, I don't know. Take me down, or you can bring Curt up with me, or do you want me to go down?
Oh, I could bring up Dr. Curt at the same time. We can start bringing up multiple because we're getting over an hour. But let's see if we can do 3 people at least, and then we'll bring. I know Faith from Facts is on deck, as is I Am Batman. So happy to, and good to see a lot of you in the chat. That I'm remiss for not saying hello to some of you. Kelly, good to see you. Elijah, good to see you as well. All right, good to see you, Dr. Curt.
Yeah, hey, how you doing?
I'm hanging in there. It's been a nice few days. A busy time, but yeah.
Yeah, so when you were talking to Robin about the Hebrew scriptures, like it just strikes me that you kind of have to decide whether you're going to go with Marcion's view or the Christian view. And if you go with the Christian view, you have to accept that the God of Jesus is the creator God of the Old Testament.
Yeah, but again, I don't. What I personally do is I look at each book of the Bible as, in some cases, different passages of the Bible as articulating different points. Some of them serve to explain a historical narrative, explain a theological principle. Some of them are imprecatory poetry. Some of them are moral maximum language. And it's not, and sometimes that varies by the book. Sometimes it varies even within a book. So.
Yeah, but do you think they're describing a God who's different from the God of the New Testament, or do you think they're describing the same God?
I don't think God changes over time, but I think that the covenant between God and humankind changes.
Well, Exodus 32:14 certainly says that God changes. So I guess, again, you're saying that you're adopting the Marcionite position.
What shows that God changes?
Exodus 32:14.
Is that where Moses prays and God relents?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that doesn't show that God changes.
Of course it does. It means he changes his mind. What else is he?
Yeah, but I mean, if God is an omnitemporal being, then God's relenting is contingent upon Moses' supplication, right?
So you're saying the text is wrong and he didn't change his mind?
Am I saying what's wrong?
Are you saying the text is incorrect that he did not threaten to wipe out Israel and start over with Moses?
No, I'm not saying he didn't make that threat, but I'm saying his relenting might be contingent on what Moses said. But to say that it is contingent on Moses' supplication doesn't make it something that changes. It would have always.
Regardless, no, it's a change. Regardless, then if he makes a threat and then he doesn't follow through on it, that's a change. That's a change from going to the status of threatening to stopping threatening.
Not if it's a conditional threat.
Conditional on what? What changed?
Moses' supplication.
So then you're saying Moses was causally efficacious in changing God's mind?
No. I'm saying the contingency on the supplication of Moses was present as a pre-existing condition.
Okay, so are you positing that Moses had to make the supplication? He had no option? Because then again, it's still God just doing nothing.
Let me explain it to you this way. If you and I are having a conversation, okay, and I am an omnitemporal being that is able to interact.
Well, since we can dispense with that hypothetical, let's actually just talk about what the text says. Like there's no chance you're going to be an omnitemporal being, and omnitemporal beings are not demonstrated. So let's talk about what's in the book.
Well, I think the hypothetical makes an important point in this case.
Well, it's a begging question, right? You're going to say, if God exists, then God exists. But of course that's true.
No. That's not what I'm saying. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if I am an omnitemporal being, I can still have a conversation with you if you are a being experiencing temporality in a linear fashion. Now, the way that
I don't know that that's demonstrated. Your understanding of an omnitemporal being is very different from mine then. Because for me, language is necessarily temporal. Language itself implies a change of state, right? I have to utter the sounds. I have to be in the mindset of uttering them, and I have to do that within a space of time.
But words can be uttered without time, right? I mean, you can have a book.
How? Where?
A book. Any
Well,
book.
the person reading is reading the letters from
the
one
words
direction
don't
to
change.
another over time.
Have you ever seen the movie The Never-Ending Story?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So there are points.
It takes about an hour and 40 minutes to watch the movie. So I'm curious how you're gonna parse this.
Well, there's two young boys in the movie, right? One young boy is living in Fantasia, right, and experiencing,
that's Atreyu.
Yeah,
Yes.
and they've experienced time in the past, right? The other young boy is living outside of that experience of temporality, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, but they still are able.
But they're both experiencing a linear story. They're both experiencing time.
I wouldn't argue that they're in different time frames.
Yeah. So again, they both change. There's change associated with the necessity of language.
This is a nuanced point, but I would start from the perspective of if I can explain, I can experience time in a different way than what you experience as time, and we can still have a conversation. Right.
Sure, but
if I know everything you're going to say, then I'm going to just express myself in a way that is contingent. Again, but that doesn't mean that I'm changing. That doesn't mean that I'm changing based on what you're saying.
Tavo, that begs the question. You're saying if I were God, then I would be God.
Okay, let's leave.
That's a tautology.
No, let's leave God on the sidelines here, and let's just talk about two people in two different time frames. Okay, one person in a time frame that is in a that one person is experiencing linear time, and the other person is experiencing time in a more they're experiencing the entirety of that timeline at once. Okay, they don't
still begging the question. Still begging the question. Because there's no demonstration that there's a person who lives that way.
Well, that's because we live in a universe where we're all experiencing time at once. But
right, so you can't postulate things that don't exist as explanatory metaphors for another thing that doesn't exist.
That's not true, and I'll explain to you why that's not true. The reason is because we can postulate as much as we want outside of the universe. That now, if an entity is entirely within the confines of the universe, then we can you can say we can't postulate anything.
I mean, let's look at the definition of what a universe is then, because you have a definition of a universe that is different from mine.
This is a really long aside for your one question about your one passage from Exodus. But my personal belief is that passage of Exodus does not prove that God is changing over time. It proves that God is creating a contingent threat based on the absence of a supplication, and when the supplication emerges, the threat is removed. That doesn't make it an idle threat. That means it's a threat given.
Okay, but you just described a sequence of events in time.
Yeah, but the reason why I'm describing the sequence of events in time in this regard is because you said I can't use any analysis that uses a different timeline, right? So I'm saying even if I don't use a different timeline, I can still use conditionality.
Again, to me, conditionality is just inherently temporal. If then is just a temporal statement.
That's not true at all. I mean, right? I could have a contract with a person right now, and I could say prenuptial agreement, right? I could say, if you divorce me, okay, then I get this amount of money, right? That is a contingency. It's not. It doesn't mean that there's any omniscience in the document. So I'm providing an explanation that shows that contingency can exist regardless of what unfolds in the future of time.
Future, yes, regardless of what unfolds in the future. That's what conditionality is.
So that's what there's a contingency then, and that works out.
Okay. let's back up to the universe, because you made a claim that I find very, very difficult to support. What is your definition of the word universe?
Is there a point that you want to make in this line of questioning?
Yeah, there's a point I want to make, but I can't make it if your definition is somehow different than the standard.
Why don't you offer a definition, and I'm sure I'll be okay with the definition.
The standard definition of the universe is everything that has ever existed.
So what about brain theory, where there's different membranes of reality that exist in different time frames? Are they within our universe, or are they outside of the universe?
I would say if you use the standard definition of the universe as everything that has ever existed, then there literally can't be anything that's outside the universe. You would, by that definition, define anything that exists within the universe.
There are a lot of reconciliations of how things work outside of our universe, right? There's inflationary cosmology, which posits that there ought to be bubble universes, right, that exist.
Again, I would just argue that those are like different instantiations of space-time within the single universe. But you could use a different word, right? Carl Sagan called the universe this instance of time, and then had the word cosmos to describe everything that had ever existed. But my point is, let's just agree there's a blanket noun, either cosmos or universe or some other totality of existence that encompasses the concept of everything that exists.
Here's the problem. I feel like I've kind of made some points here, and then you kind of say, well, let's talk about this thing instead. So do you?
No. I don't think you've made a single point. But the reason I'm trying to get you on this is because
a contingent pledge or a contingent promise that can exist, right? You can have a contingent statement in writing, and then if
not atemporally, no, not without time.
Okay,
no.
Forget about the temporality, because I understand what you're saying. You're going to have an objection to that. So I fish that right. Tavo, why do you do this to yourself? I do want to bring up BBN because
I'm gonna get down.
Okay,
thank you,
well,
Tavo.
Robin,
Thank you, Tavo. I appreciate your even though we don't agree on a lot of some things like this right here, you're always very kind and respectful, and I appreciate that very much.
Robin, I'm very deeply fond of you, and I'm really glad that we're in the same community and we're able to have these conversations. So yeah,
I want to say hi to TBS out there too. I see TBS. So.
Oh, okay, yeah. He's actually
not. Hi, TBS. How you doing?
Bye, Curt. Bye, Tavo.
Good to see you, Robin. Yeah. TBS has not been on this channel before, but let me bring up BBN because I did promise to try to get to BBN because I kind of put off BBN last time, unfortunately. And it wasn't anything I did intentionally. It was just because he hopped on and then hopped off. And we're at 1 hour and 15 minutes. But Dr. Curt, are you okay kind of chilling out? And you're welcome to contribute also. But I want to get... BBN's also an atheist.
You can talk to BBN, sure.
Yeah. And he will also probably have some...
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, BBN, good to see you. How's it going?
Good to see you, man. Give me like 5 more minutes and I'll be right there.
Oh, okay. Perfect, yeah. All right, well, let's keep chatting, Dr. Curt, and then we'll get back to the thing. But I mean, Dr. Curt, do you agree that you could have a contract with a contingency in the contract, and then that shows that contingency?
Sure, but you're signing the contract at a point at which the contingency doesn't hold, or you wouldn't sign it.
Okay, well, great. Well, what if God
said... So there's always going to be temporality to any contract.
I understand that, and the reason why I'm switching is because I know you're going to have more objections if I try to leave the timeline. But what I'm saying is I don't need to do that to make the argument. What I'm showing you here is even if you don't remove all the discussion of different timelines, then I'm still making a point that a contingency can exist. That contingency doesn't mean that I'm changing my mind over time. That contingency could exist at the start point of the contract, and then something happens to engage the contingency, and that doesn't mean that either of us have changed our time, our mind. Do you agree with that at least, right?
I would say that most of the time, if it's a contingency, are you talking like a contingency, like a force majeure clause in a contract or something like that? Or
it can be any contingency,
a third agent,
any contract that you like. The point is those contingencies can exist, and that doesn't indicate that we have changed our mind. right? If I sign a contract with God, right, and there's a contingency, and God says, if you ever transgress, I'm going to do this with you, and then I transgress, and then he does that. That means he's making.
Yeah. Okay. No, because the Exodus 32:14, there's no implied contract, and there's nothing like that going on. That's just I have this idea, and then someone else says, "Don't do that thing," and then the person says,
"But wait a second, Dr. Curt. Your whole point was that the presence of a contingency means that God is changing his mind."
No. That's not my point. That's not fair. That's not what I said. I said the text describes God changing his mind, like deliberately changing his mind on the basis of a conversation.
My reading the text does not indicate that God is changing his mind there. God is simply enacting a contingency. That's one possible explanation that doesn't require any change of a mind.
I will relent is the phrase that a human being would use when they are describing changing their mind. So you can, again, this is like we've had this conversation back and forth many times. You're saying that the language that we use to describe normal human interaction, when it's applied to this particular being, doesn't count. And that's a common move. Like that's a common move among apologists. I get it, but I just don't think it's.
I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, what is your analysis for saying that God changes his mind here? The only thing that
he says, I will relent.
Okay, so God is saying that contingently, right? In other words, God always knows that Moses is going to say something objecting. Moses makes a supplication, so God is saying something contingently.
If God always knows exactly what will happen, the conversation is like it's not even a conversation. It's just a.
You can argue it doesn't meet the definition.
Demonstration.
Okay, well then it's a demonstration that he's having with Moses and not a conversation. I'm okay.
But again, that means that there's nothing about the Hebrew Scriptures that has any validity in terms of demonstrating anything about the New Testament.
Whoa, wait a second! Come on.
You're saying there's no contingency and there's no possibility for a mind to be changed. If there's no possibility for contingency or a mind to be changed, there can't be a plan of salvation.
All right, let's see if BBN is here at this point.
There's like no plan of salvation on that move.
Okay, well,
at all.
I know we're just gonna have to agree to disagree probably, but I don't see your analysis on Exodus being validated. And you can say well, then God changes his mind when you get to the area of soteriology, but at least in terms of Exodus, it doesn't seem like that's a change of mind. But let's bring up BBN. Go ahead, BBN. Good to see you. Really glad that you're here.
What's up, brother?
How you doing?
Pretty good, man. Just got off of work.
You're gonna love Dr. Curt. Dr. Curt's an extremely very persuasive. Yeah.
He seems like he's been around these roads before.
Many times.
He's got that. I tell you what, he does have the thing I get after a period of time. It's like I just call it passion. It's just boiling. It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. But having said that, I think Dr. Curt and I are really fond of each other, and I think we're fond of the conversations that we have. So I think it's not like,
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah. I actually am an avid reader of all of Dr. Curt's articles and everything that he's written about me, including about,
I don't really know about that. So what does he write articles for?
Just his own Substack.
Oh, okay.
It's substack.com/E Curt Allen. So if one of the mods wants to put that in the chat, I'll highlight it.
Okay. It's pretty dope. I can get with that.
Yeah. All right. Well, what questions do you have, BBN? Because I remember not bringing you on sooner last week. So.
No, you're all good. Well, first thing I want to talk about, really, and I'll be really quick about this one because it doesn't matter at all, but I just heard you mention it, so I wanted to talk about it really quick. Did you say that you're like a vegan or a vegetarian?
I'm a vegetarian, yeah.
That's cool. Now, I was going to ask, do you have problems with people who eat meat, or you just have problems with factory farming?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Because I think I had Max on the channel last week, and one of the things we talked about is I think Max would agree that an animal suffering unnecessarily is a moral transgression, right? But my point to Max was, if you were a vegetarian there would be, and if if you universalize that law, at least certainly, then there would probably be less animal suffering in the world. Does that mean that you are doing something that is causing unnecessary animal suffering? I think that gets to a very, I think it's gray zone. I would say that I try to refrain from making moral judgments on people in general. So I try to look at people and just say, I'm not in a position to judge anyone but myself, and I'm not even really in a position to judge myself because I'm not going to be harsh enough according to empirical sociological research on the topic.
Yeah, I think that they should study me because I'm pretty hard on myself. It's like that's funny.
Well, you shouldn't be. You're a very nice person. And moreover, I would say this: I for me, being vegetarian is right. I don't know that I'm not the type of person to apply any ethics that I have to somebody else, right? So I'm not going to be like, if you look at the world and you say eating animals is okay, and here's TBS's channel, by the way. I'll put that on the screen while we're chatting, BPN.
Okay,
we'll bring up TBS in just a second. And here's Curt's. Here's Dr. Curt's Substack, and he's written about 70,000 words on the CTF argument. So it's and he's got some really insightful articles on there too.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. I have that all available now.
Any other questions, BBN?
No, it's still on that a little bit. I mean, like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but because the way I see it is like, we know what animals can eat. We know we can see our teeth. We know what so like I'm not a big like proponent of like you need to only eat meat or you need to only eat, like you can eat. Like the reality is that depending on who you are, maybe the average person can get fairly enough sustenance from their diet. It's really hard to get all the things you need no matter how well you eat, especially like me, dude. I'm active. I work out 2 hours, 6 days a week because I do jiu-jitsu, kickboxing. Like if I just tried to get by on like a plant diet, it would be hard. But the real reality is supplements. Like it's better to supplement anyway because it's just you can actually get the things you need. It's like so. I don't really have too much of like insight in that, but I don't see any problem with eating meat. I don't see it as a murderous thing. I mean, we have to eat something alive to stay alive. Mostly, that's just the way life works. And and the real reality is like if you eat veggies and stuff like that, those things are fairly alive. Like they're just not necessarily sentient. But also, a lot of animals die making these vegetables and fruits. And I don't know how you feel about bugs, but bugs forget about it. We wipe them out very badly. Like to keep them from eating these type of things. So it's an interesting argument, and it doesn't seem like you're on the line too much of it. You just seem like you want to reduce, I guess, animal suffering.
Can I ask you a serious question?
Yeah, sure.
Like, have you considered that position? The idea that somehow eating plants kills more animals?
I didn't say it kills more animals, but it does kill a lot of animals.
I actually understand the objection because I want to.
Yeah, because it kills the voles and all the things in the field when they.
So let's wait. Let's wait a second. Under what circumstances are those animals being killed? Do you understand the sequence? What happens?
Yeah, they get sucked into certain machines. There's also pesticides.
No. That's a tiny percentage. Like that's a minimum.
Sure.
Animals can hear a tractor coming, and animals can run away from a tractor. If you've ever driven a tractor,
but they do get sucked up. Happens, I don't care what you say about it.
No, they don't hardly ever get sucked up. That's a tiny percentage.
Oh, hardly ever. I don't think that's true.
What the studies, again, if you believe that animals run towards a loud tractor, then I guess that's your argument. It's a terrible one.
That's not my argument.
What really does happen, what actually happens, a tiny number. The real cause of the actual death of these animals is the loss of cover when the crop is harvested, that these rodents who grow in a field will all of a sudden be exposed, and things like owls and hawks and falcons can now see them easily when they've taken the season to get used to the cover, and then they get predation from them. It's not actually the machines that are killing.
Well, let me steal man what BBN is saying. Let me steal man what BBN is saying, right? Because I do kill insects, right? If there's a spider in my home, I have to kill it, for it's essentially not for me. But
so spiders are not insects, though.
Okay, that's a very good point. But I think BBN's point, if I can steel man it, is at some point I have to draw an arbitrary line and say these things, their suffering matters to me, and these other creatures, their suffering doesn't matter to me. And I don't know that there's a point at which you can draw that line without being pretty arbitrary. I'm trying to steel man your position, BBN.
Yeah, you got it. And it's like, and the point is, it doesn't matter exactly what amount of how animals die. The point is, animals do die in the making of these things. And like, so at the end of the day, you still have to.
Just to explain it to Max, the reason why I have to kill spiders is because it's my partner who's like, she will not tolerate spiders in the house. If I see a spider in my bathroom, I don't really care. So that's why I'm saying I have to. That's why I'm saying.
Well, you have to because they are ungodly creatures. That's why you have to.
No, I like spiders. I'm fine, especially the.
Yeah, I'm just messing. They don't bother me too much, but they are a little creepy.
Yeah, no, I don't
mind. Just BBN, to say that like some animals need to die, so therefore it's not a big deal to kill things, would be like saying that people die necessarily in traffic accidents, so it's not a big thing to crash into them.
It's not saying that at all. You're saying that. I'm not saying that.
Well, then how is my argument different from what you were saying?
Well, no, the point is that if someone is against animal cruelty and like they just don't think animals need to die so someone can, eat them, and at the end of the day, like these animals are still dying. And also, it's like they're dying to feed you on your vegetarian or vegan side as well most of the time. I mean, the numbers, I don't know what numbers you expect to see, but point is,
this
animals
sounds like a
dying.
pivot. I asked you, how was my argument that some people die in traffic, therefore it's okay to turn your car on people, different from your argument that some animals die naturally, so it's okay to kill them to eat them?
I don't know, man. It's not my position. You're making my position.
How about I interject really quick? Does anyone want to give the little channel plug? Does anyone want to? Because I'd say, oh, don't forget to like the video, please subscribe. When do you want to say that? Dr. Curt, BBN?
Like and subscribe.
I don't have a YouTube channel.
Thanks, TBS.
TBS, do you have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, like and subscribe. TBS, yeah.
TBS, really good to see you.
You have a YouTube channel, TBS? I've never even seen it. What's it like?
Yeah, check it out.
Oh, he's great. Yeah, he's great. He's really fantastic.
Does it have like tours?
I talked to him the other night, ironically.
Why don't you do a little bit of an introduction of yourself, TBS, and then I might as well just bring Odin up here as well, because we're kind of opening up the panel for this last hour, I feel like. Oh, and here's TBS's link, youtube.com/Toronto Bible Study. So good to see you, TBS. Do you want to give like a little introduction of yourself?
Sure. My name is Mike. I'm from Toronto, and I have this Bible study channel where we talk about the Bible, and we're free grace over there. So we teach that kind of theology, and yeah, that's about it. I hope you'll enjoy it. Come join us, and we'll talk about the Bible.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic channel. I'd really highly recommend it. I've seen you a bunch on the Christian King channel, but I'm subbed to you also.
Oh, nice, thanks.
If you haven't checked it out, TBS, check out my CTF argument, Comparative Theological Framework argument. It's my most popular video. I'll try and put a link in the chat just so that people see that video too. And if the mods want to, actually, never mind. I'll just do that myself. But yeah, but this is probably my most meaningful conversation to the apologetical discussion. It's this link right here, and it's got like 4,500 views. But yeah, so check it out. Nice. That's the argument. That's the CTF argument, Comparative Theological Framework. I basically go through a lot of different world major religions, and I compare the evidence bases of each of them. And I do that using mostly academic historiographical criteria. Mostly.
Interesting. Well, I wanted to talk to you about your appearance on CK the other night, actually.
Oh, I'd love that. Yeah.
Because you brought up something. I actually wrote down what you said here. There's a widely published, well understood criminal element of people who are Christians who really do commit terrible crimes, who justify their crimes by saying, well, Jesus says I'm forgiven no matter what. And I'd just like to ask you about that research, if you could tell me like where I could find that, or
yeah, let me pull it up in my notes. But you all can keep talking while I'm pulling it up.
Sure. Curt, what are you doing, man? Curt, Exodus 32:14 is anthropomorphism, bro. You know that.
So wait, so God doesn't talk.
What?
So God doesn't talk. He doesn't speak.
He can talk. What are you talking about?
So that's not anthropomorphism then. If God can talk, he can say, I can relent.
What? No, well, I don't know. The way theologians use that term is that God kind of condescends to humans and speaks in a language that we can understand about himself, but they're not really describing himself.
So he's deceptive. He's being deliberately deceptive.
No, it's not. He's trying to relate to
So
us
God
in a way
doesn't
that
know what human words mean?
Well, see, you have to like mischaracterize what I said in order to have an argument. All I'm saying is people cannot understand God. That's clear in the Bible. His ways are above our ways.
So that means the Bible is meaningless
Excuse me.
can't understand
Can I just
God.
finish? Can I just finish what I was saying? His mind is above our mind. His ways are above our ways. So in order to communicate to us, he communicates in this anthropomorphic language, as they say,
in ways that he knows we'll misunderstand.
No. You misunderstand it because you're not careful.
I did find the study. It's Topoli, Brezina, and Bernhardt in 2013 with God on My Side, the paradoxical relationship between religious belief and criminality among hardcore street offenders.
Okay, could you? Oh, sorry, I totally missed that. Could you drop a link in the private chat, maybe?
I'll put a link in the private chat too. Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Let's see, where's the private chat? It's right over here somewhere. Yeah. But sorry, I meant to have you all keep going. Now, one of the things that I should underscore is that what I try to do on this channel is I try to make this very like discussion friendly. So as much as possible, try to, be very all mellow with each other. It's just kind of my goal of trying to make the internet space a little more friendly, a little more loving. But all right, go ahead, keep going.
Right, yeah. So anthropomorphism is God trying to speak to us in a way that we can understand, but in a way that because we can't really understand him. So he's giving us some things that we can understand about him. And your reading of that is just not careful. That's the problem. It's not that we can't understand.
So he's not powerful enough to say things in a way that we would understand. He has to say things in a way we will deliberately misunderstand.
No, it's logically impossible for us to understand God. First of all, secondly, he explains things in a way that we can understand. But again, your reading is not careful.
Whoa. TBS. Let's just I'm not trying to ride you, but let's look at the story. Right? The story is he says to Moses, I'm frustrated with these people. I'm going to kill them all and start over with you. Was that something he intended to say?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So what was he intending to get across by telling Moses that?
He's trying to get across to Moses that these things hurt his heart. These things are emotionally trying.
Oh, he's capable of being hurt. Okay, then he can change. Proof. There.
No. That's not a
We're
change.
done.
That's not a change.
We're done.
That's not a change.
He can be hurt. That's a change.
No.
Dr. Curt, I really am consciously trying to make an endeavor to embody the value system that Zara was talking about earlier on her chat today.
Sure. I get it, but I mean, okay.
Well, you can
just calm down, dude. Stop being
I got a question.
There's a difference.
Yeah, go ahead, BBN. Let's go to BBN's question.
You said that God's not knowable. Is that what you said?
No, I said that there's certain aspects of him that are unknowable. Yes, certain aspects. He's not knowable in his exhaustively. He's knowable in parts, right, but not exhaustively.
Well, then I think, how do you know that?
If he created the universe, which is what we believe, and we can't even see the edge of the universe, we can't really understand how a timeless God can know everything but also interact with us fully. The concepts are above us, but what he tries to do when he communicates with us is put things in perspectives that we can understand. But
how do you know that if you're saying you can't understand it? I'm confused.
Because he uses examples, and Jesus used examples. Jesus taught a lot in
parables. But if you can't understand it, how do you know that this is true?
Because he was teaching in concepts that we can understand.
Yeah. We can understand.
How did you understand that? How did you understand that?
because look, dude, we can understand some things. We just can't understand him exhaustively because he's obviously far beyond us. Obviously, that's what God.
How
It's just,
how is it obvious?
how
All
is
right.
it not obvious that God would be far beyond us, far beyond our
Do you have
understanding?
kids? Do you have
Do
kids,
I have
Fabian?
kids? No.
Yeah. Do your kids understand? Do little kids
Okay.
understand adults perfectly? No, they don't.
BBN, sorry,
So when
BBN, do you have kids? I'm actually
I
curious
said
about
no.
Oh, no, okay.
And some kids do understand things. So what's your point?
Right,
Yeah, but they don't
when I was
understand
trying
adults
to
completely,
explain,
right?
I know
when
some
I was
kids that know
trying,
you better than you already. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Okay, bro.
when I,
Okay, bro.
when I was trying to explain that an oven is hot to a 1-year-old, they don't understand.
Well, yeah,
As
we
they
wouldn't
get
expect a
older,
1-year-old.
as they get older, they understand more, right? When I play chess with a master, they know 7, 8, 9, 10 moves ahead. So once a certain move is played, we both in rapid succession just play out the next step because we know exactly what's happening. When I play my youngest kid, they see 1 or 2 moves ahead. There are different levels of understanding. We can't grasp even the edge of where the universe is yet. We can't see it, but we believe God made it. And if God
Yeah,
is
I
that
get that.
far ahead of us, then we can't fully understand him. He is revealing stuff in ways that we can understand.
None of
And a
those
good
things
example,
actually explain anything, though.
I have
a
another
good
analogy.
example.
I have another analogy if this helps, BBN. Is I have a
Can
friend
I
who.
chime in after?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay.
I have a friend who's literally one of the smartest people in the world. Like literally, he's on like these crazy YouTube videos where they talk about the smartest people, and we have
Are
great
you
conversations.
talking about that one guy that has the highest IQ?
He's a guy with one of the highest IQs ever recorded, theoretically. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
IQ gets
What's
really
his name?
unreliable when it gets really high. Yeah. Anyways, but the point is, we have great conversations, but I don't understand everything he says, and he has to dumb it down a little bit to have a conversation with me. That's not to say that we don't have really great conversations. Like it just there's sort of a spectrum of what we can talk about, and he can dumb it down a little bit to talk to me and have a nice conversation. I can't like smart it up to talk at his level if he like gets into super mathematical stuff.
Is his name Chris Langdon?
No, it's not.
Okay. Yeah, because that guy's full of it. But yeah, no, listen,
Macintosh
I
Joe says,
understand.
"Thank you, Tavo." That's funny. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, yeah, no, I understand what you guys are saying to a certain extent. Like, yeah, but the thing, like he explained with the chess, you can grapple with chess. If that chess master explains it to you and you play chess, you can understand it. There's no like that. Just because you're not smart enough or you haven't got to the point to understand something that someone is better or smarter than you, that doesn't mean therefore God. I don't understand how we get to that.
I don't think they were talking about this as a proof for God, but I'll let Chris and TBS expound on that.
It's not so much a proof of God. It's just that when he is talking to us, we need to understand that he is talking in ways that we can understand. So when he tells them, if you're sick, stay away from the community, he doesn't explain to them, in 3,000 years, you're going to develop these things called microscopes, which will allow you to see these tiny little viruses and bacteria that you can get in your system that can transfer from one person to another and make them sick. He says, if you're sick, stay away from the community, because that's where they're at.
And Chris's channel is on the screen right now too. This is Chris's YouTube channel that Macintosh Pro was kind enough to put up.
Well,
great channel also.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
I
think like why couldn't he just make it able for these people to understand this thing? I don't understand.
I just want to make a few comments.
Yeah, go ahead, Odin.
So
Good to have you here. Thanks for chiming in.
thank you for having me. So so I think one of the things that we have to do a lot of the times when we address certain things in the Bible is that we can't look at things in a vacuum. Like almost everything that's stated is stated within a specific context. So when you see texts about God not changing, It's not talking about like his ontological state of existence, right? It's talking about his promises that he makes and him remaining faithful to those promises. Now, to be fair, there's the part about the promise keeping where if you break the covenant, right, there's a punishment that would be associated with that. And the reason why that punishment exists is because of God's justice, right? But also because he loves you, he offers mercy. And so what you see in the situation that Dr. Curt brought up is God showing mercy. That's all that it is, really. It has nothing to do with God's ontological state. It's just referring to him keeping his promises and remaining faithful. Yeah, I think that's what I wanted to address first. The second thing is, I would agree that to an extent that we can't fully comprehend God, but I think that's mainly because of our obvious limitations and him being wholly different than us. However, when it comes to a relational perspective, I think we can understand God, and God shows his character throughout the scriptures. Yes. And so you can get an understanding of God and who he is. Like, there's no point in trying to have a relationship with someone that you don't understand or you can't understand. So he gives us enough to where we'll be able to form a relationship, right? And to where we'll be able to learn to live with each other, because that's what's important for us, to be able to stay in relationship with him. So that's pretty much what I got to say. I'll mute up again.
Let's bring in Dr. Curt for the counterpoint on this, because I think he'll have some insightful things to say.
Yeah, I just, if your position is that God had a contract or a covenant somewhere that he's like all of a sudden being reminded that he has to hold to it, then I just don't think that's demonstrated in the text, and you're sort of doing eisegesis. The text shows someone making an impulsive and I would say rash choice out of emotion, and then changing their mind when someone convinces them not to. And you can find any way to retcon any story that you want, but to me, you're just retconning a story.
What's the difference between a retcon and just a neutral interpretation? Like, where do you draw that line?
A retcon is when a story clearly has a mistake that like later storytelling tries to fix, right? So, for example, Luke's ability to kill the Death Star is a mistake in the original, like A New Hope, Episode 4, and then Rogue One is a retcon. It's an attempt to explain why the plot hole in Star Wars existed.
This is the thing.
So you can do that sort of like epicyclic elaboration of the narrative anytime there's a narrative plot hole. But I just think that it seems desperate.
Okay, but you know why it's not retconning? Because the Bible tells us again in other places that God doesn't repent. He's not like a man that he will repent. So we have to understand in the total.
Yeah, the Bible wasn't written by one person. That's Tavo's point, TBS.
Stop interrupting. That's not my point. My point is that it's univocal from God, right? But my point is that it uses this, when we see that it obviously explains that he doesn't repent, then we see that he's using this language here. We can see that he's using this in another kind of rhetorical usage of that kind of language. It's not trying to say that it's not contradicting himself, and it's not retconning. It's the whole story has always said he doesn't repent, but in this case he's saying this because he wants us to understand something about how our actions affect him, how sin affects him, how he doesn't like it, why he doesn't like it, etc. Yeah.
So when Ezekiel says he gave them statutes that were not good, that is actually not what took place. Even though there's only one author.
No. Well, that in that case, what I would say is he's talking about the way he gives people over to their own sinful ways. He never gave them statutes.
He gave them statutes that were not good.
Brother, please don't interrupt. I didn't interrupt you. He like, for example, we already know, we know in the law there's no ever statute given such as that to sacrifice children, right? But then we can see that in other places of the Bible, he gives the people over to their sinful ways. When they resist his grace, he gives them over to their ways. So it's kind of like a way to let them learn from the consequences of evil, you know?
Yeah, that just seems to me as like another retcon, right? And again, you can retcon forever.
Sorry. Oh, are you done? Okay, well, no, it seems to you like a retcon because you're not a careful student of the Bible. You don't look at these things. This is how the literature is given to us. This is the genre, the literary conventions of the Bible. We can see these kind of practices all over the Bible. So I'm sorry, it seems to you like retconning because you're not looking at it carefully. Once again.
So in Job, when it says that Job is afraid that his sons will bless God, do you think that he's actually afraid that his sons will bless God?
He's not afraid his sons will bless God. He's afraid that they won't thank God or something, isn't it?
No. It says in the Hebrew that he is afraid they will bless God. It uses the term barak.
I have to take a look at it. I'm not sure exactly what passage you're talking about. What's the passage?
In English, it gets translated as curse, but the Hebrew word is blessed.
What's the passage? I'll read it out.
It's in Job 1-5, somewhere in there.
Yeah, it's
in the first
1.
chapter of Job.
Probably Job 1.
It's during the prologue where.
Yeah, Job 1:5. You're right. Job 1:5.
I've got Job 1:5 up. This is the New International Version. When a period of feasting had run its course, Job would make arrangements for them to be purified. Early in the morning, he would sacrifice a burnt offering for each of them, thinking, "Perhaps my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts." This was Job's regular custom.
Right, but that's not what the Hebrew says. The Hebrew says, "Perhaps my children have sinned and blessed God in their hearts."
Yeah, but
use the
no. This word is. This word can be.
Yeah. Almost all the English translations use the word curse, but the Hebrew word is barak, which means bless.
But barak can also mean curse.
No, it can only mean bless. There are other Hebrew words for curse.
Can I give you an example? Like Birkat Haminim, which is part of the Amidah, which is the most central point of Jewish liturgy, is the curse of the heretics, but it uses that same root, bet, resh, and chaf or whatever, or chet. My Hebrew is not that great, but Birkat Haminim
is probably a form of a verb that has like a different meaning. But barak,
it's the same word. It's the same word. Birkat just means
again. Later in Job, his wife says, "Why don't you just bless God and die?" But it's translated in English as curse.
It's also used for blaspheme, for curse, for congratulate.
So how do you know which meaning is the intended one?
By
because
the context.
just the context,
like
obviously.
Usual context.
So the context is you deciding what it says.
No, everybody does this in English. We do this too. Context words have different meanings in different contexts. We do this all the time, Curt. Obviously, everyone does this.
So if someone says he fucked me, you know exactly what that means.
Dr. Curt, wait a second. You hold on, everybody. Dr. Curt, you know better than that. Come on.
Well, I mean, there are so many meanings of that word. And if it's the word by itself.
Listen, everybody. Come on. There's no profanity on this channel. I've said that several times before. I don't want to get demonetized.
I'm sorry.
Moreover,
okay.
No. Let me finish saying this because I think this is important. Just so everyone knows, I mean, I would appreciate if you don't use profanity on this channel. I've had people comment that it puts them off. I know it like turns the YouTube algorithm.
My apologies.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
If someone says in English something that is ambiguous, like what's another?
Good to see you, Kelly.
Word that has many different meanings.
Just say the F
he got
word.
He got it over by me. He got it over by me. Okay? That could mean any number of potential things depending on how you read what's going on in the text. But it doesn't have a definitive certain meaning unless you're actually speaking to the person and you can get clarification.
But in a context, you look at the context, how they're using it, and how they're using it in a specific place they're using it. That's how you can determine that. That's what we do with the Bible.
Which is a theory that you have of the retcon that you're doing to make the text make sense.
Okay, no. We have a theory. We have a theory. You have a theory. Why is your theory better than our theory? Your theory is just that it's a retcon. Our theory is that
I don't have a theory. I say take the text as polysemous. It's got many potential readings.
Well,
there is no one correct reading.
No, there is one correct reading.
To use your example without swearing, right? To have sex can be a positive, or to say that word can also mean that someone has taken advantage of you negatively. The context of the same word means two wildly different things.
Correct, which means that when you run the sentence by itself, and an author may actually intend polysemy, meaning intend to include that valence in a poetic way, which really here, what is the genre of the book of Job? It's poetry, right? The poetry is actually leaning into polysemy, multiple ideas being gotten across all at once. So the key question then is, when we adopt biblical literalism and adopt the idea that God wrote the book, then you've lost the ability to actually appreciate the work of the author. That's like the whole point of understanding from a proper hermeneutic of literature.
That's not true, because it's not an isolated word. It is within the context of the book, which is in the context of multiple books. This is not unique in a bumper sticker.
No word is isolated.
You are treating it like it's a bumper sticker.
No, I'm saying the word can have more than one meaning, and you are, as a reader, deciding which valences and which particular meanings will matter to you as an original reader. When you're reading it in English translation, you lose the ability to do that because the translators solve it for you and give you something that's prepackaged across a specific point of view.
That's another
but
issue.
The reason that we know the context is because of the words around it. You're doing a disservice to your own argument by suggesting that that's not the case. And in different languages, some things have deliberate words that take away that, well, is it this or is it that? And English, we have curse and bless. In Hebrew, they use the same word.
No, but in English, bless your little heart can be used in a cursive way too. In other words, it's common in the American South for a woman who's really upset with someone to say, oh, bless your little heart. And what they mean is, you little asshole.
That's our point. That's our point. The context determines the meaning of the word, not your just your lexical claims about it.
So wait, so this is my point. You can't take that like string of text and say, I know for sure the author meant this. You just can't do that.
What do you say to the example of, because somebody actually looked this up, what do you say to the example of the Birkat Haminim, which is clearly a curse of the heretics, even though it says blessing?
Okay, well then the word carries both valences, right? It's like pharmakia in Greek, which can mean both a remedy, as in the tetrapharmakos by the Epicureans, but also as sorcery, as it's used in the New Testament, right? It has multiple valences, just like certain curse words in English can be used in a positive way or a negative way, depending on how the way one reads the text.
It sounds like we're all saying the same thing then.
Okay, so then that's my point. The medium of language, getting back to TBS's point about anthropomorphism, is actually accomplishing far too much. If God is using language in a way that is anthropomorphic, then he is fundamentally failing to get his point across, and he knows he's fundamentally failing.
Oh, he is. What are you talking about? We understand
that's
it.
Just silly.
No, you don't understand it because you just said we can't understand him.
No, we can't.
You began this conversation with we can't understand him.
We can't understand him in exhaustive. We can't understand him exhaustively. We can understand what he's trying to say in the book, and then we do, but you don't because you're not being careful reading it. That's what we're
No,
saying.
no, no. I understand the context
Kurt
of the story.
understands. Kurt understands. He's bringing this example to be obscurist, not to actually.
Oh, thank you for reading my mind. I appreciate that. That's very helpful. Would you like me to read your mind?
You don't understand.
Guys, let me interject again because I don't think we're gonna gain much more ground on this, and we're coming out on 2 hours, so I'm happy to sort of like open it back up to questions. This is kind of like everyone's chance to ask me questions, and BBN I want to give more of the floor to because BBN's joined for several other conversations, and we haven't been able to get to a lot of his questions. So BBN, let me start by turning it back to you a little bit. Go ahead, BBN.
All right, I'm gonna yell obscenities now. I'm just kidding. I got a quick question. You just can answer this. This is really quick because you remember one time when you called into the other guy's show, and I can't find it, but we were talking about skeletons and difference between men and women's skeletons. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
Okay, now what was the thing you said that women, something about their ribs, what was it called, or what was the words you said?
Let's see if Dr. Curt knows this. I'm just kind of curious. Dr. Curt, do you know what I'm talking about? A difference between men and women's ribs?
No, I don't have any idea what you'd be talking about.
Oh, okay. It turns out it's the difference in the ossification or the calcification of their rib cartilage. So the the front half of your ribs, or not the half, but the front quarter to 1/3 of your ribs are cartilaginous. And depending on how that cartilage calcifies you can actually, the accuracy approaches very close to 100% in terms of looking at rib calcifications.
Okay. Well, we don't talk much about it. I'll look that up because I was looking it up and I found nothing. I did see a thing where you're talking about.
Are you just talking about identifying a skeleton as male or female based on that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the thing when we were having the conversation originally was the fact that just there's no guarantee on any of these skeletons if you can, that there's always going to be this and that. And I looked up the thing. I had to look up the name. Now you said, what was it? Is it called something, or did I miss that?
I don't know that it's called anything specific. It's the cartilage calcification, the pattern of calcification in the rib cartilage.
I saw a thing about that, but I didn't. As far as I can see, there's nothing that hinders this type of, I know you're saying you're not necessarily saying 100%, but there's nothing that's this tight. So I don't know. I couldn't find anything on this or what I was looking up.
Well, look up rib cartilage calcifications. It's somewhere around 99 to 100% accurate for determining gender.
Yeah, I looked at it. I mean, I couldn't find it because I couldn't remember what you said. I mean, exactly. So I just looked up. It had something.
Oh, I think we lost BBN. All right, hopefully we'll be right back. Odin, we haven't gotten to many more of your thoughts on this stuff, but any questions, Odin, or stuff you want to say? I want to give you the floor for at least a few more minutes.
Yeah, sure. I do have some questions. What is your position in regards to, I guess, the universe and time? Do you hold to a block universe? And are you a determinist or a compatibilist, theologically speaking?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I don't. The block universe says that every moment is equally real, right? And then they're all just sort of in different points on the timeline, but they're all real, right? The future and the past is all real at once.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
that's the opposite.
Your experience is basically an illusion, or your experience of time is basically an illusion.
I would tend to agree with that. But I don't have a really good reason for agreeing with that. It just, time seems to be unreal. So we lost you for a while, BB, and it sounds like you're back. But yeah, my
back?
You're back now. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Hey, sorry. You know what, you guys? I gotta bounce. But Tavo, I'd really like to talk to you about that article again, if I could. Maybe
I'd love that.
Email, okay. All right,
yeah,
thanks everyone. God bless.
Hey, TBS, send me an email anytime. We'd love to have you on the channel anytime you'd like. I'd really love that. Yeah.
Later, TBS.
All right, later.
My email address is just dr.tavosantaburi@gmail.com. Before you go, do you
Okay.
want to drop on us stuff you're working on or content you got coming out to get people to hop over there?
I got a debate coming up on Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard at on the His Humble Servants channel on YouTube. We're gonna debate whether a person has to believe the death, burial, resurrection to receive eternal life, or whether they just believe on Jesus. And yeah, I'm just doing debates and stuff, and I'm working on a book, so hopefully I'll get that out. But check out the channel, and thanks for your time, everyone. God bless.
Yeah.
Great to have you here, TBS. So hope you pop by anytime. Would love to see you again.
Thanks.
What's your book about, TBS?
It's called the Jesus Focused Gospel. It's about that subject and others like it. Like the gospel is about believing in the man Jesus, not believing a set of facts about him like the death, burial, resurrection, or other things.
What about the Trinity?
Well, yeah, you can get the Trinity wrong. You have to believe that he is the Christ, the man who was sent by God to give eternal life to whoever believes in him. You don't have to understand the Trinity to receive eternal life. So
So what about a Unitarian?
Well, if they properly believe that he gives them eternal life to whoever believes in him, most Unitarians are works-based, so I would say they're not saved. But if they believe that he gives eternal life to whoever believes in him, as the Bible says, then they would be saved. Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, would love to have you on the channel anytime. Really great to see you, TBS. Really glad that you're here.
Thanks.
I just talked to that guy the other night. It's crazy.
Yeah, he's a smart dude. Yeah, I miss his debates with Random when Random Catholic used to debate him a lot. Yeah,
I vehemently disagree with TBS.
Yeah,
I think his theology is extremely dangerous, but to each their own.
We've got a new person on the chat. Will Jesus find faith? Find faith. And it sounds like there's some background noise coming from, well, maybe not. Maybe that dropped off. But good to see you. Feel free to introduce yourself to the chat, and then we'll go back to group chat.
It's messing up again. I'm going to talk to you later if you're on what's his name show. Goodbye, everyone. If y'all can hear me, sorry.
Good to see you, BBN. Really nice to see you. Always glad to have you here. Hope to see you anytime. BBN's a really nice feller. So Dr. Curt, I don't know how much time I have left. I think I had about 2.5 hours. So I'll run down the clock. I don't know what happens if we like hit the limit, what they do. So
have you tried?
But if they have your credit card, they start charging you.
Oh, they don't have my credit card. Yeah.
Okay. Have you tried Video Ninja?
No, I haven't. Is that the one that CK made?
No. That's another one. Video Ninja is what several of the other channels I go on uses because it's also free.
I may wind up just going to a different service, but I think the other one, StreamYard, is the big one, and the other one is Restream. Yeah. So, but if CK makes one, I'll just join his.
Yeah.
All right. Well, will Jesus find faith? Really glad you're here. Happy to have a chat with you. Do you want to introduce you? I think we're getting something like your foot in the foreground. So I don't know. I just want you to be aware of that.
My foot? Oh,
What's
that was my.
That's your hand.
Wait, so I can see your names. Anyway, I had to zoom out. My bad. No, it was not my foot.
No, that's fine. Yeah, okay. Good to see you.
David, I know Jesus is 100% real. God of the Old Testament, not so much. But they taught two totally different things.
Can I ask what denomination you are or what?
I grew up Baptist since I was probably 7 years old. It's probably the first time I went to church, and stayed Baptist until I was about, 17 to 18, and I went to my first Pentecostal church, and I was like, okay, maybe there's something here, and maybe it was hype, okay? And then kept going to church. We went to college. We came back, and me and my wife, and went back to a Baptist church. That's where my family was going. And anyway, I never could really understand the Bible. Like, I tried, like most people do. They're trying to do it. They're trying to go through the steps. They're trying to do stuff. And it wasn't until the Father came over me, crying out on my knees, and changed my whole life. And I can't explain that. You can call it mental breakdown. You can call it whatever you want. But it changed my whole life. I could understand the Bible. I saw all the discrepancies. I spent like 4 years in the New Testament, going over every word Jesus said, going to understand it. And every time I went back to the Old Testament, I just felt sick in my stomach. You will know them by their fruits. And when you go back there, you can't, they're not the same person. That's not his father.
Well, I mean, that's a fascinating perspective. Can you tell us more about how you how you saw God? Like, what was that like? Like,
I'm telling you, I did. Okay. So I'll just tell you when everything became real. It was the day I gave up, and I was going through marriage counseling for a year and a half. Nothing was breaking, nothing was changing. I was doing everything I could. I changed everything in my life, dude. I look back at everything I'd ever done wrong, everything that made me not such a good person. I had looked inside myself. I guess self-reflection. Here, I'm gonna still turn this up so I have my fingers.
yeah. Don't worry too much about the camera, because I don't want you to feel too distracted. And I think when you're grabbing it, it's making some noises. But yeah,
I turn this thing off. I'd probably feel better. But anyway, it wasn't until that day. I remember, like, the only things that make her happy is if I get a divorce. And I was coming home, but I knew it was against God. That's one of the things Jesus said. Especially, he said, "I know it was told to you in the Old Testament. Moses gave you those vouchers, or Abraham or Moses gave you those vouchers to get divorced." And he said it was never supposed to be like that. And I knew that. And I always had that back in my heart. And I'm like, once you tell somebody you love them, I mean, Jesus, come through. But
you were on your way home to divorce your wife.
Yeah, I was making that decision. And then
wow. Okay. And then what happened?
I know it was against God. And I came into my office and I dropped down on my knees and I cried out to God. I was like, God, help me, because I know it was against him. And then the next thing you know, then I'll tell you that next minute, when I was done doing everything, when I was empty, when there was nothing left in me, when I had nothing left, God came over me like a ton of bricks, and I knew what true love, joy, happiness. I knew who my father was, which I'd never known before. I thought I knew what love was until that moment. But anyway, it was life-changing. And after that, I could read the Bible, and I'd never been able to do it before. I get tired, sleepy, and I could understand parables. People go to school to learn, and most of the time they don't even know what they freaking mean. It's sad. He changed my whole entire life.
That's a really compelling story. Does anyone have any? This is you're on the panel with. Usually we do this kind of a one-on-one, but towards the end of the stream we just kind of open it up to the whole group. But you're on with a panel, so like we're all sort of somewhere different on the theological spectrum of the degree to which we believe. But does anyone have any questions for Will Jesus Find Faith? I have a lot of follow-up questions, but I got to.
Have you heard of Marcion of Sinope?
I'm sorry?
Have you heard of Marcion of Sinope?
Yes. And
okay.
Listen, so
we're not getting any of this.
I think now, unfortunately, we're starting to lose you a little bit.
I spent 4 years in the New Testament pretty much only, except for when they made references back. I'm putting in ears right now. That should come through a little bit clearer. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, that's a little better for you.
Okay. I'm sorry, guys. So I spent 4 years in the New Testament studying every word, parable, miracle. And it's when I went back to the Old Testament, some things happened in life. I thought God was sending me in the direction of a church. I got out of the Baptist church we were in, moved over to more of a Pentecostal style, new startup church. They were supposed to be going back to Acts. And when I saw the money,
money, power, and greed. And I've seen that in everything from Protestant to Catholicism to everything. And I went back and I was like, God, well, why would you send me there? And he showed me different. And then he showed me the corruption. And it took me back to, oh my gosh, this has been happening since the beginning. And um, I read from Genesis on, and I'm like, I saw Abraham lie to these two people saying, this is my sister. And I'm just like, God did never punished him. And I'm like, these people were getting destroyed for what they did. And I was like, this is wicked. And I saw Isaac stealing Jacob and Isaac. And
But
dude,
you
just
consider
it
yourself
went on.
you consider yourself Christian, right?
Yes. And that's
And
what led me. And I was like, dude, this guy's wicked. And it was me putting that in that I found out about Marcion.
yeah,
He
yeah,
was
yeah.
showing me in my spirit, and I saw it, and I was
Can
like,
I
oh my gosh.
can I just ask, where do you go to church now?
Nowhere now.
I mean, I would
Shame.
recommend you. I would recommend you go to church, certainly.
But okay. For
Not all
what?
churches.
That's the
For
point.
Christian community. For people will pray with you. People will spend time with you. You can share each other's burdens. You can debate the theology. You can learn more about how the Old Testament is both prescriptive and descriptive. So some of the stuff is just describing what occurred as much as anything else.
Correct. And I would
through
say
discussion, you learn this stuff.
it would almost be safer. I told you I moved from a Baptist to a Pentecostal startup, and it was supposed to be an Acts church. Everything we were talking about, and I'm just on fire for God, dude. I've been through the New Testament. I know what it says. And when I saw the control, power, and money come over it, and then I saw false people come in that were falsely prophesying and stuff like that, I called it out for what it is.
Well,
And
let me share with you my experience. Like I go to a church. I'm really proud of the group that I'm surrounded by, but they definitely like are very patient if I want to ask them questions. And sometimes when I'm questioning something, I'm like, I don't believe what you all believe, and they're okay with that. And we're able to be
that's
friends, have a
awesome.
conversation. Yeah, but it's not every church. But I would recommend at least engaging, because my beliefs have changed slightly over time. Like, they don't always change super quickly, and sometimes they stay quite fixed. But a lot of the people, like, they're I think there is something beneficial to going to church. And as I've argued on my channel, there is actually like some pretty significant health benefits for just regular church attendance. But yeah, you
Yes.
just kind of have to
No.
find the right church where the people will let you ask questions.
Yeah. How often do you think that? And I'm just saying this, and I'm not trying to be cantankerous or anything. Tavo, how many times do you think that happens where people are opened up? Or does what church teach today, and I can go all the way back from Baptist to any kind of Protestant, is there nothing but judgment that comes with, and it's taught and led from the Old Testament God?
Which is the question? How often? Which part?
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. Do you think teaching the Old Testament God next to the New Testament Jesus and what he taught, love, forgiveness, compassion, love thy neighbor, turn thy back, everything, how much do you think of the Old Testament God is brought into the New Testament? And they have judgments of both, and they're judging just as bad as the Old Testament God.
It's the same God.
They're the same God.
I personally also would believe that they're the same God. But let me put it to you this way: like, I go to church, and they sometimes say things that I don't agree with, you know. But here's the thing: when I go to church, and like, if I want to find a church where everyone agrees with exactly what I'm thinking before I think it, I'll just stay at home.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and they're okay with that. Like, and they're okay with like me going and saying, here's what I agree with, here's what I disagree with, and everyone will have a discourse. Now, that it takes a long time to find the right organization. And I will say that I went to like 3 or 4 churches where they said, if you've got questions, this is not the right place for you. And I think that's unfortunate when it happens. But that's not to say that everyone is like that.
No, dude. I can go to Revelations for that. Out of the 7 churches, there was wickedness in every one of them, and he said, "Hold fast." while the people were in there, the people that had pure hearts. So, should I have left the church? I got a little conviction out of that when he led me to that. And I thought maybe I should have sat right there and let the people that had open hearts out. So that was my mistake. But
Yeah,
at the other
Tavo,
hand,
just real quick, I do follow Tavo's advice. I go to a church where everybody agrees with me by staying at home on Sunday.
Yeah.
But but Dr. Curt, like I hope I pray for you a lot, Dr. Curt, and I
You should stop. It's not working.
Nah, dude. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I like praying for you.
No,
that's
do
a
something
wrong
nice for
heart.
someone else. That's much, much better than wasting your time praying.
It's a heart thing, and Tavos is correct.
Well, but here's the real side of it, though. When I like reading the Old Testament, I'm reading it in the original biblical Hebrew, and that's given me some really new insights. I tend to be pretty good at picking up languages just because I was cycled through a few languages at an early age. But I mean, I'm enjoying it. The church I go to, they talk about the Old Testament, but sometimes they say things that I don't agree with, and sometimes they say things that I agree with, and they're willing for me to like argue with them, and they're still like, we're part of the same community. I guess here's my other question, then I'll leave it back to the group. But what are you doing with your experiences? Because you received a divine message. How are you sharing that with people? I mean that genuinely.
No, I'm serious, and I'll tell you, I'm led by the Spirit, just like Jesus. And I'm going to tell you from my personal experience, and this is how I see it. You can call me schizophrenic, crazy, whatever. I don't really even care. I know who my Father is. I follow God, and every day in my life, dude, I swear He prompts me. There's something going on there. And I sit there and talk to them, but I have no religious bias on the back of it. So I don't care if they're Protestant, Catholic, where they're from. I can see, I don't know. God just feeds me what's going on with them, and I speak to them how He's leading me from the heart. And that's it. There is nothing biased. There's nothing religious. Dude, the first thing that scares people off is a religious bias.
No, I understand, but you did leave out a very significant group in your list, which is atheists.
Yeah,
right?
dude.
I'm a lifelong atheist. I think I'm like riveted by your story. I find it to be very compelling. I think a lot of atheists would want to hear what you're saying.
Dude, and I guarantee you, whether you call it Jesus or anything else, if you come to the end of yourself, I think that's what Jesus was teaching. So I look at what God was saying. I see what Jesus was saying. When you come to the end of yourself, it's just an end of the heart. I don't think you have to know the name Jesus, because not everybody knows His name. And I'm like, are all those people condemned to hell? That sounds dumb. For the loving God that I serve, no, dude. I think anybody that comes to the end of themselves, dude, God's going to be there. That's the thing. Jesus will be there.
You at least endorse the New Testament, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dude, He taught us it's love, compassion, mercy. Dude, everything that's contrary to everything that goes on in our spirit. Well, I don't know any other religion that's taught that. None.
Let me bring in Chris to to answer the question of what do we do for people who never hear the name Jesus. Chris, do you want to take that one? Because I am genuinely curious to hear what you're going to say about that, and then we'll go to Adrian.
I would like to answer that as well.
So in Romans,
we'll do Chris, Odin, and then Adrian.
In Romans, there's it's not specific and clear, because the specific and clear way to be saved is through Christ. But in Romans it says those who do not know Him are not under the law, talking about the law of Moses, but will be judged according to what they have had revealed to them of God. So we don't fully know what their standard is, but we know that they will be judged rightly, because the God that we know is just and loving.
Yeah. So, Chris, do you think that He's suppressing the truth in His unrighteousness?
Well, let's go to Odin, because I did make an order, and we are getting to the end, and I do want to get Adrian up here. But
Yeah, I'd love to hear Adrian.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Let's start with Odin, and then we'll do Adrian.
Yeah, the scripture that was being referenced, it's well, one of the main ones used to address this question is Romans chapter 2, where God Paul specifically explained that God doesn't show favoritism when it comes to judgment, and people ultimately are judged by their hearts and their deeds. And so even a person who's never heard the name of God, or who, who's never heard the gospel message, right? Those people, they can be made righteous through the laws that's written on their heart if they're obedient to it through their conscience. So if they live as if someone who is obedient to God without knowing God, God will show them mercy. Whereas someone who has the knowledge of God and decides to be disobedient, right, then they'll deal with whatever comes with that, basically.
Yep.
Let's hear from Adrian too. Adrian, you want to introduce yourself a little bit and just meet Will Jesus Find Faith? And I keep calling you Will Jesus Find Faith, but
my name is David. Yes.
David, nice to have you here, David.
I'm just Will Jesus Find Faith is just, when I read that verse, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Because anyway, yes.
Adrian Belgrave. I have a Bible and Beats channel where on Wednesdays I'm going to start having topical studies based on the Thompson Chain Reference Bible, and Thursdays is just reading scripture and digging deep in it with study Bibles and Greek and Hebrew. 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you love Bible, you want to get in that Bible, that's the channel.
Right on.
I'm gonna just speaking of, I'm just gonna spit Bible to you, David. All right. 1 John 5:9. Even if we accept human testimony, the testimony of God is greater. For this is the testimony that God has given about his son. I'm reading from the BSB translation, in case y'all are wondering what translation I'm reading from. Verse 10. Here's the one I really want to say. Because I thought I heard you don't believe in the God of the Old Testament and only believe in Jesus Christ. This is the scripture I want to read you. Verse 10. Whoever believes in the Son of God has this testimony within him. Whoever does not believe God has made him out to be a liar, because he has not believed in the testimony that God has given about his son. I'm not going to be the one to call God no liar.
No, it's okay. Well, I guess I'll throw some other scriptures at you, Adrian. Please hear me. Okay.
Of course.
He said, and I can look this up real quick if you need me to, but I think you know your scripture well enough. Okay. It said, whoever claims the Son has the Father. Okay. I've got Jesus, brother. I'll tell you that. It's not the same God of the Old Testament, just like he said to the Pharisees. He said, you are of your father, the devil, and your devil has been the murderer from the beginning. He's been a liar since the beginning. Okay. I'm just throwing this at you.
That's
I
Bible.
know Jesus
That's
is real.
Yeah.
Do you
It's
remember the promise given to Abraham? He was given 3 promises. He was given land, that his family would be like the grains of sand on a beach, and that his seed would bless the entire world.
And that
So the
and that is
plan
great.
was always blessing the world.
Got you. And Cyrus is actually the one that rebuilt the second temple. And believe me, I'm going to tie this in, so I'm not going random. Cyrus was going to tie this in. Satan also promised, what did he promise Jesus in the wilderness? Lands, power, money. What did the God of the Old Testament promise them? Land, power, money. What did Jesus promise us? This is not my world.
No, it wasn't land.
Give up
Land,
everything
power,
you've got.
and money.
Who did Jesus quote in when the devil
let's turn it back over to
asked him
Chris,
those questions?
Go ahead, Chris.
He didn't promise land, power, and money. He promised land, a large number of descendants, and that those descendants would bless the world. That's very different to land, power, and money.
The world, what did Jesus say? This is not my kingdom. If it was my kingdom, I would fight. I'm just, believe me, guys,
Yes.
I have studied the Bible probably just as much as you guys. Y'all have never heard this point of view. And I once I read it and I saw some of the wicked.
We've all heard this point of view, but I'm not saying your insight.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is not, no, your
my
insight
bad,
is
brother.
very appreciated. I mean, I'm enjoying the conversation.
Can I
Yes,
just
sir.
ask a simple question? When the Bible says the Father and I are one, what does that mean to you?
And that's the thing. He said the Father and I are one. I don't think they're talking about the same Father in the Old Testament. In fact,
Right,
in
Marcion
fact,
saw
no.
Jesus'
And
father
here-
as
and
a
here's what-
stranger god, as an alien
and
god.
here-
Let's
here-
open it up to Dr. Curt, because Dr. Curt hasn't said anything of it.
Okay.
Yeah, so Marcion's claim was that in the antitheses, that the God of the Hebrew Scriptures was a demiurge. He was a secondary god. That was a mistake on the part of the created alien God, who was the father of Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know about
Dr.
that.
Curt, isn't this just this is all Marcionism, isn't it?
No.
I mean, I don't know that what Dave is saying is Marcionism, but that was Marcion's position. And let me just be clear, there were second century Christians who accepted all four gospels and all the writings of Paul's epistles and were of the opinion that that's what it was discussing. And in fact, the phrase ransom in Mark makes the most sense as a Marcionite ransom to the God of the Hebrew Scriptures, to take over the control for the alien God.
Yes.
We're right at 2 hours and 30 minutes. I think we're going to get kicked pretty soon because I'm almost out of time.
Oh man.
But no, I mean, David, I hope I hear from you again. I hope you sub to the
Tavo,
channel.
Can I ask you one question,
yeah.
just to leave on, if you don't mind? So I would ask you, all in the New Testament, Jesus tries to get you to understand his heart, correct?
Yeah.
Compassion, love, mercy, compassion,
kindness.
If they ask you 1 mile, 2 miles, and he said you will know them by their fruit. After you know Christ in the New Testament, I'm telling you, don't take the indoctrination you've been through. I went through it too. I spent all my years. In fact, this is one of the hardest things. I had more people reject me than anybody else. But you start putting that filter, exactly what Jesus taught on the Old Testament, you will come out, you will understand where Marcion came from. I didn't even know who Marcion was. I don't believe everything he believes, but I'll tell you, that's where it brought me. And that's where the Holy Spirit and the Word brought me. And I know that's objective. I know you think I'm demonized or whatever for saying that.
No, I don't look. I don't think I would never say. I would never say that you're demonized. I mean, I'm enjoying the conversation, David. Yeah,
I'm proclaiming Christ, Jesus. That's it,
David. When it says in the Bible, paraphrasing here, don't have the exact verse on my head. But when Jesus Christ said, it basically says that Jesus Christ is the exact representation of God. What does that mean to you?
No, that's the point. When you hear God, you do not realize they changed all the names of Yahweh, El Hadim, everything. They changed all the names in the Old Testament.
The exact representation of Yahweh. If the Bible says that was Jesus,
not Yahweh. That's what I'm saying.
No,
It's
the
not
Greek doesn't
Yahweh.
ever say Yahweh. By the way,
it doesn't.
That's like,
never does. I'm telling you,
it
what you
says-
study.
The Greek can't say Yahweh, right? The Greek can't say
It
Yahweh.
does
Yahweh
not.
is a Hebrew
It does
word.
not. It
It
does
uses
not.
in Hebrew. Oh, okay.
It says
And
I am.
it's basically
LXX.
saying that he is the image of God, the invisible, and
That's what.
in Colossians 1.
So if
What
you
does
go
that
back
mean?
if you go back to the LXX, the Greek, or you go back to the Hebrew, they do not state the name Yahweh. Now, if you look
Yes, they
at what
do. Yes, they do.
they use the name Yahweh, that's in what context? And how many
In the
times has it been
context
changed?
of the God that spoke to Moses, in the context of the God in Isaiah, in the context of the Old
Great.
Testament, they either use
So-
Yahweh or they use Elohim.
Yeah.
referring to
Not in the
Yahweh,
LXX though. In the
there's
LXX,
actually
that's
in
translated
the
into Greek.
LX.
the angel
That's
of
right.
God.
They use
The
ego in
angel of
me,
God. The angel of God is another one.
which means I am.
There's an
Angel of the
angel of
Lord,
God.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So when they came out of Babylon, they basically they lost all their scripts and they wrote everything over again.
We may get cut
I
off.
know.
We may get cut
Oh,
off pretty
anyway.
soon. No, that's
Yeah.
okay. I just thought what we like to do when we wrap up is just each of us kind of gives a little closing statement. We might as
Tavo,
well.
before we do that, can I just point Adrian to something real quick?
Sure.
Yeah, of course.
Adrian, there was a second century apologist, Theophilus of Antioch. Some people believe that Luke and Acts were written to Theophilus of Antioch, but that's like not beside the point here. Anyway, in his apology, he's asked, how is it possible that God can like walk with people, right? And in the section, I think it's section 12 or 13 of his work to Autolycus, he says that God himself, of course, can't do that, but that God has an image who can come down and be the image of God. And he describes the God walking in the Garden of Eden as the Logos, as the reason principle of the God, and not God himself. So that would be what I'm the image of God would mean. And there's second century Christian precedent for exactly that understanding.
Yeah. And
Thanks, Curt.
I would say a lot of the stuff you'll read, and if you start studying the old, where everything came from, you'll see how many apologists came from the church that describe stuff that if you read back in the Hebrew or the Greek, and you'll start, dude, all I know is God, Jesus is real. At the end of the day, Jesus is real.
No, yeah,
And
Jesus is God,
we only have a
absolutely.
few
come
minutes
and help
left, so I
you.
keep
He will
saying.
love on you. And that's all.
Yep.
That's all that matters. At the end of the day.
I keep saying this because we are kind of closing in on the end of the time. But
love you, brother. I'm not gonna keep you up.
No. Stick around because we're gonna do some closing statements now, and I'll probably we'll probably close the chat pretty soon after 2 hours 40 minutes because I don't want to get billed. I don't think it's likely because they don't have my credit card. But anyways, but here's a couple other things just to talk about. Like, number one, I always do this every Monday, 5 p.m. PST. So you're welcome to always, and David, you're welcome to reach out to me anytime. I think everyone else on the channel knows that we've got some stuff going, and I've got some collaborations, I think, with almost everybody on the channel going that I'm looking forward to. So some of them are more concrete than others. But anyways, so yeah, check out my channel if you're interested. Check out the CTF argument. If you haven't already, please. Thanks, Max. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. I'd really love that. Please like this channel. And my biggest my biggest contribution is the CTF argument, which is my argument that's kind of a comparative, a comparison of the academic historiographical evidence behind each religion. Forged by Grace is in the chat too, so really good to have you here. Hopefully you'll hop up and have a conversation at some point soon as well. Does anyone else have any closing statements you want to say?
My biggest contribution is the 13-point takedown of the CTF on my Substack.
You have many great articles. You have many great articles, but your attempted refutation, I shall say, is about 65,000 words or so. So that's the equivalent of a short textbook. So to me, that means that at least it's not a flimsy argument, and I don't think you would say that it is either. It's at least
I never once said it was flimsy.
No, I don't think you would say that either. Yeah. But I think that
at points I describe it as compelling psychologically.
Yeah, and I think that means that there's at least some meat to the argument. So, all right, let's keep going though, Dr. Curt.
No, we're both vegetarians. It's not me.
Okay, fair enough. What are you working on, Dr. Curt?
So I'm working on a mirror argument of planting as evolutionary argument against naturalism, which has been taking way longer than I expected, and probably won't be up even later this week. My work has gotten insanely busy in the middle of summer, which is bizarre and has never happened to me before. So
same here. Yeah, people are really. One more question, Dr. Curt, is how is Taco doing?
I haven't heard from him in about a week and a half or so. He does say he's planning on getting back to streaming on the Discord, but we haven't had much communication lately. So I don't know. He sometimes comes into your chat, so he didn't today.
Yeah. Well, let's turn it over to Odin. We're working on some stuff, Odin. You can talk about that, or you can talk about other stuff that you're working on your channel.
I'm thinking about actually setting up a channel for these kinds of conversations. I've written a few papers, mainly to reconcile a few things that I see fellow believers have issues reconciling, whether it's stuff that have to do like with philosophy or science and stuff like that. And how the reconciliation goes is not this short thing where the Bible is true, science is true. It's nothing as simple as that. It's more so to show that you know you can have a belief in God and you can hold to the sciences, and how you interpret the Bible is important, but for the sake of things that are salvific, those are separate issues. You know, and I hope to change your mind on the block universe thing, Tavo. I
Oh
wrote a
yeah, I
paper
mean,
on
I'm
that.
I'm open to that. I'm definitely like pretty agnostic on that idea.
Okay, okay, cool.
All right, let's probably try to do the wrap ups a little more quickly, and then I'll probably shut it down pretty soon after that, just because I don't know what's going to happen, but it's kind of exciting that we're getting like really, it's like driving your car on empty. But let's do Adrian first.
Just want to reiterate, y'all. First of all, Dr. Tavo, thank you for having me on the panel. David, I'll be praying for you. Praying for everybody in general. Thursday, new top of chain. I'm sorry, on Wednesday, top of chain NKJV reference studying. We're gonna get through apostasy. What does the top of chain reference have to say? What type of verses are going to point that out with apostasy? And Thursday, we're hitting up James 4 reading. We're gonna read from the Amplified translation using the ESV Study Bible for the deep dive, Greek and Hebrew after the reading. Bad. And read your Bible, y'all. All right.
Right on. Let's go to David next.
Tavo, Adrian, Curt, thank you guys for having me, and whoever was on here earlier. If you ever think, and this convicted me more than anything, if you ever think you know it as you should, you don't know it how it is. I think Paul said that, something around those lines. So, anyway, I love you guys. It doesn't matter if you got love in your heart, dude, and men you see around you, whether they espouse exactly what you say, as long as you have love in your heart for those men, nothing else matters. It really
Amen.
doesn't. That's what he taught. Um, love your God and love your neighbor, and that's it. At the end of the day, we can sit here and discuss Bible things all night, and we can do it. I mean, there's so many things in there. It's ridiculous, actually. Um, I know. Here's the thing, Adrian and Tavo and Curt. I know all the apologetics on the other side. I had to sit and look at myself in the mirror, and everything I would not let my brain think. How many times have you had something brought to you where you're like, "Wow," and it's in the Bible, and you're like, "Wow, oh my God," and you just shut it out because you like, I don't want to think about it because it's going to make me question what I'm doing. Imagine shutting that off and actually looking at it for what it is and filtering it with Jesus and what he taught us. And as soon as you do that, you will understand. Filter it with love, compassion, care, and it's not about this world. As soon as you do that, you will understand exactly what I'm saying. That's the most simplistic way I can put it. And it's not. I'm not against Jesus, dude. We're not fighting. If you love Jesus and you know he was teaching us the right thing, we're on the same side. And I know Marcion was pushing for that. He could see the same things I could see. That's the thing. I had no clue who this dude was. The Holy Spirit led me to him through the Spirit of truth. And that's through reading the Bible 6 years, every day, nonstop. If I could not do it because I was working, I was streaming a sermon. I was streaming some kind of theology in my head. I wanted to understand. I never stopped. And what it led me to was understanding, like, why I had the gut feeling. And here's the thing: if you went to church when you were younger, it, it, it and you may not remember this moment, when you're sitting there and he was like, Yahweh killed 50,000 people because they were murmuring over food. And you were like, whoa. And then you're like, no, that's my God. Yeah, I would have done better than them. You're nothing better.
Just to be cognizant of the time frame.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Tavo, I'm sorry. I'm getting into it. All right. I'm just saying it can lead to pride, dude. And justifying people dying, but it's okay.
I predict and hope that we'll have more conversations about this.
Yes, sir.
Let's give it over to Chris.
Yeah.
I'm under Chris Oki Ministry on TikTok and YouTube.
Yes.
Mainly at the moment, I'm putting parts of the Bible to music. I've put like all of the Psalms, Hebrews, the Sermon on the Mount, and John 3. And I'd just like to say that the good thing about church is not just what you get out of it, but you helping others.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I think we're definitely running on empty, but it doesn't look like we're getting kicked yet. And I think what's going to happen is it's going to like not let me do any new hours after the stream, which is fine because it resets in a couple of days. But I do want to say I've had a really good chat with all of you. Once I cut off the stream, we stop going live. You can all still talk to each other if you want to exchange information. David, I would just remind you, like, keep talking to atheists as well. So, and
I can understand where atheists lead. I understand how they get there. In fact, I'm
a lifelong atheist, and I just, I think but also and support each other's channels. Big love to all the people who've been helping out with the chat, especially Macintosh Pro, who's been like really
Macintosh Pro is a G, man. Thank you, bro.
Yeah, you're the
thank you,
man.
Bro.
Thanks for all the links, and don't forget, if you're done watching, go by my channel, give it a like, check out some videos, and please check out the CTF argument. All right, really great to see you all, and as usual, I really do hope that
God bless, Tavo. Thank you.
Really have a wonderful evening.
Yes, sir. Adrian,